We're thrown into a dark memory, haunted by the cruel taunts that plagued a young boy named Zhang Yuanqing. They called him the kid nobody wants, a bad seed whose own father probably died in a ditch somewhere. These venomous words manifest as shadowy figures, closing in on him in his trashed-up room. Our boy stands alone, a glowing figure of innocence surrounded by the darkness of their judgment. But just as the shadows loom, a fist comes flying out of nowhere, shattering one of the tormentors. An orange-haired kid explodes with rage, demanding to know what kind of sick nonsense they're spouting. He screams at them for believing stupid rumors and warns them to never let him see them bully Yuanzi again. With tears in his eyes, the young Yuanzi looks up at his savior, his brother. His friend just grins, taking his hand and promising he'll always have his back from now on. And for the first time, a genuine, tearful smile breaks through all the pain. In his memory, Yuanzi felt safe, believing that as long as Brother Bing was there, nothing could hurt him. But then, that connection shatters as their hands slip apart and the warmth begins to fade. Suddenly alone, Yuanzi looks back, a flicker of confusion and fear in his eyes. A dark, twisted shadow calls his name as his friend walks away, consumed by the encroaching darkness. Panicked, he reaches out, desperately asking where Brother Bing is going as his friend's form starts to dissolve. He screams for him to come back, but his friend's fading spirit just offers a final, silent encouragement. Our boy jolts awake, gasping for air, the haunting memory leaving him drenched in a cold sweat. He clutches his head, the familiar throb of a migraine beginning to set in. Turns out, he has a strange illness that forces him to recall every memory and analyze everything around him. The upside is incredible control over his body, but the downside is these agonizing, splitting headaches. The only thing keeping these debilitating headaches in check is some special medicine his mom brought back from abroad. Just then, a voice calls out, telling him to get up for breakfast and that a package has arrived for him. Still groggy, our boy agrees, trying to shake off the lingering dread from his nightmare. He glances at the bottle of pills, his only lifeline against the constant mental overload, but he knows something is wrong. Lately, he's felt the medicine's effects weakening as his tolerance grows. He stumbles into the dining room where a blue-haired woman cheerfully announces that his auntie is taking him clothes shopping. After changing, he grabs the package from the shoe cabinet, his curiosity piqued. He checks the label, but there's no sender information, just a city name, which immediately feels off. A sudden, ice-cold chill shoots down his spine. His instincts are screaming that this package is bad news. But before he can even react, his guardian smacks him upside the head, threatening to break his legs if he goes anywhere, leaving him completely dumbfounded. The guardian screams that at her age, she doesn't make empty threats. She follows through on every single one. His aunt immediately grabs Yuanzi, using him as a human shield while arguing he's in his 20s and needs to go out and date. But the old lady sees right through their little act, exposing that the aunt is just trying to sneak off to a blind date. The aunt retorts that her mom should worry about her own son's love life, giving Yuanzi the perfect chance to slip away from the family war zone. As his aunt finally heads out, our boy gets to work opening the mysterious package. He pulls out a sleek, black card, completely baffled as to what it could be. The texture feels incredibly high quality, making him think it's some kind of VIP card for an exclusive club. He tucks the strange card into his pocket, deciding to investigate it later. But that's not all. Underneath the card, he finds a handwritten letter waiting for him. His heart sinks as he reads it. The package is from his friend, Brother Bing, who ominously explains he found something life-changing that he couldn't handle. Our boy scoffs, wondering what kind of shady business his friend has gotten into to send him something like this. Deciding to get some answers, he immediately calls Brother Bing's number. He starts the call with some sarcastic praise, but is cut short when a gruff, unfamiliar voice answers. It's Bing's dad, leaving Yuanzi completely flustered as he quickly changes his tune and asks for his friend. The playful attitude vanishes instantly as he listens to the grim tone on the other end of the line. Then, the bombshell drops. Uncle Lei tells him that his son, Brother Bing, is missing. Yuanzi is floored, demanding to know what happened, only to hear that Bing vanished from his dorm room 2 days ago. The story gets even weirder. Bing's roommate testified that he was in the room 1 second and gone the next. He can't believe it's possible to just vanish into thin air, suspecting his friend must have been kidnapped. Hearing the despair in the man's voice, Yuanzi promises to use his family's connections at the Public Security Bureau to help. After hanging up, our boy's mind is already racing 1,000,000 miles a minute. He tries to piece it all together: the disappearance, the dorm room, the package, and that mysterious black card. Suddenly, a cold dread washes over him as he pats his pocket and finds it completely empty. He's absolutely floored. Just like his friend, the card he was certain he had has vanished into thin air. The pressure finally hits him. The two clues, the black card and Jiangnan province, swirling in his head. A splitting headache erupts, forcing him to grab his medication just to cope with the overwhelming stress. He pushes through the intense pain, trying to focus on what he needs to do for his friend. His thoughts drift to the letter, realizing Bing sent the cursed card to him because he couldn't trust the authorities. It all clicks into place. Bing knew he was heading to Jiangnan for university, where his family's connections run deep. He remembers Bing's last words. Understanding this gift was a desperate cry for help from a brother in agony. With his head still pounding, our boy finally downs the pills, hoping to clear his thoughts. But just as he does, a voice from downstairs yells that investigators from the Public Security Bureau are here for him. Yuanzi whips around, completely dumbfounded by the sudden interruption. His mind races. Investigators from his cousin's unit showing up now of all times feels way too convenient. He hears his guardian fiercely defending him, but knows he has to face this head-on and calmly says he's coming. Before leaving his room, he quickly deletes his missing friend's contact info, erasing any potential links. Downstairs, his guardian explains that she's already checked their IDs and they just want to ask a few questions. She pulls him aside, warning him not to be doing anything shady, and he cheekily reassures her with a straight face. He gets a good look at the visitors, a flamboyant man and a stone-faced woman, and realizes they are indeed his cousin's colleagues. Stepping forward, Yuanzi introduces himself and asks them directly what they need from him. The investigator cuts right to the chase, asking if our boy knows Lei Yibing, and Yuanzi confirms they're practically brothers. Yuanzi offers them a seat, internally questioning why they'd show up unannounced when they should know his family's connections. He plays the gracious host, trying to keep his cool, as the three investigators settle into his living room. The man drops the bombshell. Lei Yibing is missing, and he sent Yuanzi a package right before he vanished. Yuanzi slams the table in a burst of genuine shock, demanding to know how that's even possible. He takes a moment to collect himself, his mind racing as he processes the grim news and his own precarious situation. Playing dumb, he admits he got a package but claims the sender's name was missing, so he had no idea who it was from. When asked about the contents, Yuanzi looks him dead in the eye and says the box was completely empty. He casually adds that there was only some bubble wrap, justifying the lie to himself since the black card literally vanished into thin air. The investigator, clearly not buying it, requests to search his room, phone, and computer, making it clear refusal is not a good option. Realizing he's cornered, our boy reluctantly agrees, figuring it's the only way to look innocent. The lead investigator gives his team the go-ahead to start tossing the place. The pink-haired investigator gets uncomfortably close, demanding Yuanzi hand over his phone for inspection. Our boy gets all flustered, stammering as he hesitates to give her the phone. He sheepishly admits there's some self-study material on there, but she just smirks, assuring him they're only after case-related info. While she's busy, Yuanzi decides to play detective himself, asking the lead investigator for more details on his friend's disappearance. The investigator lays it all out. His friend vanished from his dorm room without a trace, almost like he was plucked out of thin air. Yuanzi's eyes narrow. This is the same trash. Tier info he already knew, making him wonder if this guy is hiding something. The investigator sips his tea and warns him to report any clues immediately, forbidding him from hiding a single thing. Then comes the chilling threat. If he doesn't cooperate, he might just be the next person to vanish. Our boy is seething inside, realizing the investigator's words were a clear threat, but he forces a polite thank you. Just then, he's startled by the pink-haired investigator returning. She announces the phone check is done, handing the device back to him. A sly, knowing smirk crosses her face, and Yuanzi's heart sinks. He's absolutely mortified, steam practically coming out of his ears, knowing she saw everything. The investigators finally get ready to leave, with the tatted leader handing Yuanzi a business card for any new info. Yuanzi sees them out, politely asking them to inform him if they get any news about his friend Yibing. Once they're gone, his guardian worries about how his friend could just vanish, but Yuanzi claims his head hurts and he needs to lie down. But he's already making moves, telling her to have Grandpa contact a certain Uncle Lei about the situation. With the official investigation out of his hair, it's clear our boy is about to take matters into his own hands. Meanwhile, the investigators regroup in their slick-looking ride just outside. The tatted leader, sipping on some wine, asks his subordinate Guanya if she found anything useful. With a dramatic flair, she announces she's made a major discovery. He leans in, his expression turning serious as he demands she spit it out. Turns out, she just found a bunch of hidden folders with some seriously questionable names. The leader's face immediately sours, realizing this is going nowhere good. She continues her report, detailing our boy's very specific taste in study materials and his reclusive lifestyle. Her boss is absolutely dumbfounded, face-palming and asking if this is really her big find. But she just laughs it off, saying a little joke never hurt anyone. Getting serious, she finally reveals the real discovery. A letter from Lei Yibing containing an unknown class character card. The investigator silently processes this new, crucial piece of information. He leans back in his car, a picture of calm menace, already formulating a plan. He decides to pay our boy a visit tomorrow. That is, if he hasn't conveniently gone missing by then. As the sun sets over the city, the pieces are all moving into place. Meanwhile, Yuanzi sits at his computer, completely oblivious to the shark circling him. Hes deep in thought, realizing his friend's disappearance was a deliberate act to get the black card. It clicks that the Public Security Bureau isn't the only player. A third party is hunting for him and the card. He figures his friend didn't trust those investigators, concluding the only safe move is to tell his cousin everything. But his plan hits a snag. He can't reach his cousin, and the sheer insanity of the situation sends him into a panic. Just as he's about to lose it, a voice suddenly calls out his name, startling him. Turns out the voice belongs to his aunt, and she is absolutely livid that he's been ghosting her. She lays into him, questioning if all the things she's done for him mean nothing, while our boy just sits there, defeated. The sheer pressure of the situation, now amplified by his aunt's nagging, finally starts to break him. He stumbles away from his desk, clutching his head as a sharp pain suddenly shoots through his skull. Her voice becomes a distant echo as she tries to guilt-trip him, but all he can register is the burning sensation in his head. He collapses against the wall, completely overwhelmed by the sudden, intense agony. Thankfully, his guardian runs interference, telling his aunt that he went to bed early with a headache. She then cleverly distracts the aunt by asking about her blind date, who she rejected for earning too much money. Meanwhile, Yuanzi sits alone in the dark, the fading sunset reflecting his isolation. But in that solitude, a new resolve hardens in his eyes. He's done being a victim. He catches his reflection and is shocked to see a strange black mark materialize on his forehead. Looking closer, he realizes it's not just a mark, but some kind of progress bar already at 50%. He touches it, suddenly remembering the Black Moon card and wondering what the hell happens when it hits 100. It all clicks. The card didn't vanish. It fused with him, becoming the life-changing gift his friend Bing mentioned. In a flash, the bar jumps straight to 99%, signaling that something big is about to go down. Our boy is completely losing it, totally unprepared for this sudden power-up sequence. A system window pops up, announcing a character card reboot and assigning him the badass class of Night God. He's sweating bullets, dumbfounded that his life has literally turned into one of those web novels. The system's first order of business is simple but urgent. He needs to name his character immediately. A holographic pen appears out of thin air, waiting for him to choose his new identity. He tries to interact with the system but realizes its AI is trash tier, making him think this whole cheat ability might be a bust. Annoyed, he just scribbles down his real name, Zhang Yuan King, hoping to get this over with. But the system hits him with a big red nope, warning him that using his real name is strictly forbidden. Our boy is stumped for a second, realizing he needs a proper game handle for this new life. Then it hits him, and he decides to go with a legendary, god-tier name from the old myths. He locks in Yuanqi Tianzun, and the system immediately accepts it, wishing him luck as a 1-0. Second countdown to the spirit realm begins. The prompt to enter the spirit realm flashes before his eyes, and he knows there's no turning back now. The countdown kicks off instantly, the numbers ticking down as his heart pounds in his chest. In a blinding flash of light, the countdown hits 0, and his world is completely engulfed. The system then lays out the brutal welcome party, an S-rank, single-player, death-type dungeon where he just has to survive for 3 hours. Our boy wakes up in a daze, his vision blurry and his mind struggling to catch up. He slowly raises a hand, trying to get a feel for his new, very real surroundings. Clenching his fist, he confirms this isn't a dream. The transfer to the spirit realm is complete. He stands up, utterly dumbfounded by the dark, cavernous space he's been thrown into. Suddenly, a system window pops up, asking if he's ever heard of the Yuling tunnel, a famous urban legend. The system lays out the grim backstory. A work crew vanished in this tunnel decades ago, with only one survivor found. This lone survivor was completely broken, his mind shattered by some unspeakable trauma. All he could do was repeat one terrifying warning over and over again. Don't go into the temple. The reality of his S-rank death mission finally hits him as he stands in that very same haunted tunnel. He feels a sudden chill, his senses screaming that he is definitely not alone in this place. Our boy recognizes the name, wondering if he's really been thrown into the infamous Yuling tunnel. As he stumbles, a mysterious paper talisman, a gift for protection, falls unnoticed from his pocket. He tries to calm himself down, realizing this place is far more ancient and terrifying than the real tunnel he'd seen just days ago. His body starts shaking uncontrollably from the sheer terror of the situation. He forces himself to analyze the facts. He's been dragged into a supernatural phenomenon to complete a mission. The mission objectives flash through his mind. Survive for 3 hours and explore this S-rank, solo death type spirit realm. He deduces that survive means extreme danger, and explore means he has to push deeper into this nightmare. The horrifying conclusion hits him. This entire tunnel is designed to kill him. But then, a sliver of hope appears. If it's a mission, there must be a reward for clearing it. He recalls his night god class, realizing his friend was right about the black card, but now he regrets ignoring the warning that came with it. Our boy realizes his friend wasn't exaggerating the danger. A death-type spirit realm is as bad as it sounds. As he peers deeper into the abyss, he notices strange, glowing pods lining the cavern walls. Suddenly, one of the pods breaks free from its wiring and plummets towards the ground. It shatters on impact, the sound echoing ominously through the desolate tunnel. A shuffling noise makes him freeze, and he can't believe his eyes when a lone figure emerges from the shadows. His heart sinks as he gets a closer look. It's not a person, but some kind of shambling corpse. The creature drags its grotesque, decaying feet across the stone floor, inching ever closer. It looks like the reanimated body of a tunnel worker, its uniform torn and its skin peeling off. The thing finally lifts its head, revealing a horrifying, skeletal face with nothing but black pits for eyes. Just as the terror sets in, an entire horde of these red-eyed ghouls lurches into view, ready to swarm him. Our boy is completely dumbfounded, realizing he's not facing a person, but a desiccated corpse. He scrambles backward in a panic, tripping over his own feet as the horde shuffles toward him. The creature's hand is a thing of nightmares, all bone and sinew with long, sharp claws. One of the ghouls lets out a guttural cry, its jaw unhinged and its red eyes burning with malice. But as he braces for the end, Yuanzi realizes something is off. The zombies aren't attacking him. His eyes dart around, a flicker of understanding cutting through the fear. He spots something else in the darkness, and a grim realization dawns on him. Turns out, Hez not just facing a horde from the front, Hez completely and utterly surrounded. One of the zombies lets out a strange, hissing breath, as if giving a signal to the others. His blood runs cold as he looks up, seeing dozens more of the creatures crawling along the cavern walls. Our boy is completely dumbfounded. The zombies aren't attacking, they're just pointing in one direction. His gaze follows their bony fingers to a creepy, traditional-style building in the dead of night. A strange, ominous sound suddenly echoes from the dark structure. From the oppressive darkness, a single, malevolent red eye flares to life, pulsing with power. Understanding this is his only path, Yuanzi plants his foot and decides to run for it. He bolts forward, not away from the danger, but straight towards the source. The horde of undead miners parts for him like he's some kind of VIP. He sprints through the opening they've made, heading deeper into the cursed cavern. More zombies emerge from the shadows, their dead eyes just watching him pass. His mind races, trying to make sense of it all. The system called this a death spirit, so why did they just show him the way? He knows this is a trap or a guide, but either way, his first move is to put some distance between himself and those creepy corpses. The path leads him out of the tunnel and into a dense, moonlit forest. Our boy doesn't hesitate, sprinting down the winding dirt road, deeper into the woods. As he runs, a chilling thought hits him. The forest is dead silent, with not even the sound of insects. His view of the path ahead is distorted, as if he's passing through some kind of barrier. Strange lights flicker in the darkness, and a single ominous red glow appears in the distance. He finally comes to a stop, his foot landing on an old, overgrown stone walkway. Looking up, he takes a breath, having finally reached what seems to be his destination. The place is ancient and abandoned, covered in thick spiderwebs that haven't been disturbed in years. It's a decrepit, crumbling shrine, clearly the heart of this cursed spirit realm. Our boy looks around the decrepit ruins, a sudden realization dawning on him. His eyes widen in shock. This isn't just some ruin, it's a full-blown temple. He suddenly recalls the special instructions from the handling manual he received. The voice explicitly warned him not to enter the temple, but now that he's out of the tunnel, what choice does he have? A chilling thought crosses his mind. What if those zombie miners were intentionally leading him here? He checks his quests and the awful truth hits him. He has two separate, conflicting main quests. Putting them together, he realizes he has to survive in this hellhole for 3 hours, feeling utterly betrayed by his roommate Bing. He gulps. Trapped between a rock and a hard place, one quest says stay out, the other says go in. But with no other option, he steels himself, figuring there's no reward without risk. Taking a deep breath, our boy steps through the crumbling doorway, into the heart of the cursed temple. Just as he steps into the courtyard, he spots a faint light coming from inside the temple, a small beacon of hope. But before he can even process it, A rustling sound from the overgrown grass puts him on high alert. He freezes, his heart pounding, as he wonders if something is lurking in the shadows. The unsettling rustling continues, getting closer and making his skin crawl. Our boy tries to calm himself down, thinking his nerves are just getting the better of him. He cautiously peers into the darkness, but the eerie silence that follows is even worse. A grim thought crosses his mind. They say hearing things is always the first step to seeing a ghost. As if on cue, glowing footprints begin to appear out of thin air, one after another. Hez absolutely losing it, realizing Hez barely set foot in this place and he's already run into something foul. In a fit of pure terror, he bolts, yelling for the ghost to haunt its real enemies because he's just an innocent guy who likes to look up study materials online. He looks up in sheer panic as the glowing footsteps continue to appear right above him. Not wasting a single second, our boy lets out a terrified scream and just bolts for his life. He sprints blindly through the dark corridors, desperate to find a way out of this haunted nightmare. With a splintering crash, he throws his entire body through a set of wooden doors, not even slowing down. The force sends him flying out into the open air, tumbling onto the hard ground outside. He finally collapses, gasping for breath, his heart still hammering against his ribs from the mad dash. After a moment, he sits up, taking in the eerie silence of the night under a full moon. It seems he's escaped the building, but now he's just stranded on the porch of this creepy, isolated estate. He listens intently, a cold sweat breaking out as he realizes the ghostly footsteps have completely stopped. Then, with a definitive click, the very doors he just burst through slam shut behind him. Wiping the sweat from his brow, our boy desperately tries to convince himself that he's finally safe. But his relief evaporates when he finds himself in a chamber filled with ritualistic candles and a human skull. He looks up, dumbfounded, standing before a massive, terrifying altar dedicated to some dark entity. The smaller statues flanking the main figure have the most unsettling, knowing smiles carved into their faces. A cold shiver runs down his spine. He can't shake the paranoid feeling that their stone eyes are watching him. The central statue is the worst of all, its hollow gaze seeming to pierce right through his soul. As he cautiously steps forward, the sheer, overwhelming scale of the monument becomes terrifyingly clear. The air itself feels heavy, crackling with a strange energy that seems to emanate from the statue itself. His eyes drift down from the imposing figure, noticing something odd about its posture. He realizes the goddess is meant to be holding something, and whatever it is, it's probably the key to this whole nightmare. His gaze falls upon a stone tablet at the base of the statue, something he'd missed before. He figures it must contain some information about this creepy temple. The ancient script dates the place all the way back to the Ming dynasty, at least 500 years ago. But as he processes this, a horrifying thought suddenly strikes him. If this temple is an abandoned ruin, then who the hell is changing the candles in the main hall? His eyes snap towards a faint, flickering light he spots in the oppressive darkness. Reflected in his eye is the source of the glow, 3 candles burning atop some kind of altar. Getting a better look, he sees the candles are placed directly on a bandaged-up corpse. He realizes it's one of the construction workers from the urban legend, forcing him to wonder if this place always existed or if the story created it. But he knows one thing for sure. His situation is extremely dangerous, and he needs more clues to survive. With no other options, our boy decides to screw it and investigate the corpse head-on. He cautiously approaches the body, patting it down for any potential clues. The corpse itself is a horrifying, desiccated husk, looking like it's straight out of a nightmare. He quickly assesses the body, noticing some broken bones but also something hidden in its chest pocket. Pulling it out, he finds an old, weathered talisman with blood-red writing on it. The talisman seems to hold a memory, revealing a story about a haunted temple where disciples kept vanishing. Turns out, the master of the temple was trying to keep the disappearances a secret to avoid scaring off patrons. A diary entry from one disciple reveals his growing dread as his brothers vanished one by one. After his eldest senior brother also disappeared, the disciple finally confronted his master, unable to bear it any longer. The master promised to tell him everything after sunset, a terrible secret concerning a millennium of the temple's history. Our boy is left dumbfounded as the diary entry cuts off right at the climax, leaving him with more questions than answers. He realizes this note from the dead worker is a major clue, possibly the key to clearing his second main quest. But he's hit a wall. All the info in the main hall is exhausted, meaning he has to brave the dangers outside. He recalls an urban legend about a single worker who survived the Yuling tunnel, clinging to that sliver of hope. With a plan forming, he cautiously cracks open the door, only to be met with an unnerving, dead silence. His instincts immediately start screaming. He can feel a powerful and dangerous presence lurking just outside. Despite the fear, he knows that just sitting here and waiting to die is the worst possible choice. Steeling his nerves, he makes his decision. and takes that first, fateful step into the unknown. He emerges from the hall, standing resolute between the serene night sky and the decaying haunted temple. With no turning back, Yuanzi begins his trek through the cursed grounds, ready to confront the horrors within. Our boy pushes deeper into the temple, the crumbling ruins a testament to the horrors that happened here. The entire complex is an eerie, silent graveyard, and he's the only living soul walking its paths. He keeps his guard up, knowing that at any moment, the silence could be shattered by something monstrous. As he rounds a corner, he pushes through some overgrown weeds, heading towards the back of the temple. And that's when he finds it a literal mountain of corpses, the remains of the missing construction team. He tries to play it cool, telling himself he's getting used to the sight, but deep down, he's utterly terrified. While examining the skeletons, he notices that despite their horrific deaths, their shoulder blades are perfectly intact. Suddenly, a faint, ghostly whisper echoes through the night, pleading for help and chilling him to the bone. The disembodied cries seem to be pulling him towards a massive, ominous archway shrouded in darkness. Hess internally screaming that he's the one who needs saving, but then it hits him he heard it loud and clear. A real person is in there. Our boy is having a full-blown panic attack, thinking about his roommate Bing. He suddenly gets fired up, vowing that if he survives, he's snitching on all of Bing's homework folders. With his courage temporarily restored, he ventures deeper into the decaying temple grounds. The inside is a mess of cobwebs and shadows, a perfect place for things to go bump in the night. He quickly finds another corpse, this one sitting upright, its skeleton almost perfectly intact. But on closer inspection, he realizes its shoulder blades are shattered. This is definitely not a coincidence. As he examines the body, he feels something hidden inside the tattered clothes. He pulls out the contents: a strange talisman, a small bronze mirror, and a book. The items look ancient, and the mirror has an unnervingly intricate design. Suddenly, a system notification pops up, confirming he's just discovered a genuine spirit realm item. The system confirms his find: a one-time use, corpse-suppressing talisman, designed to seal the undead. Our boy realizes only the talisman triggered a notification, meaning it's way more important than the other loot. With a grim look, he knows he's stumbled onto something far more sinister than a simple haunting. He decides to check the old book first, hoping it'll shed some light on this messed-up situation. The book turns out to be a diary, its pages filled with frantic calligraphy detailing a disciple's life and a growing sense of dread. He connects the diary's timeline to a historical rebellion, but the mention of a night wanderer makes him question if this is just history. The diary entry gets horrifying, describing an older disciple returning as a corpse with his heart ripped out, delivering one final warning. The warning was to not trust their master, but the rest of the page is torn away, leaving him completely stumped. A sudden, intense chill runs down his spine, and he realizes this temple is definitely not a place to hang around. With the diary offering more questions than answers, he turns his attention to the last item, the eerie bronze mirror. Our boy picks up the old bronze mirror, wondering what secrets this last artifact holds. But the moment he looks into it, his eyes go wide with pure, unadulterated terror. His reflection stares back, but a horrifying, shadowy skull materializes right behind him. He completely loses his cool, letting out a silent, comical scream of absolute panic. In a desperate move, he whips out a yellow talisman and slaps it onto the mirror, praying to every god he knows. He immediately drops to the floor, begging for his life and admitting he was totally in the wrong. After a moment, he cautiously peeks at the mirror, hoping his trusty talisman actually did the trick. But it was useless. The thing in the mirror wasn't even a corpse-type spirit, making his talisman worthless. A crippling cold washes over him as he realizes the mirror is draining his life force, and he regrets ever stepping outside. Suddenly, two skeletal workers grab him, sarcastically welcoming the new guy who loves to court death. Just as he's being dragged away, our boy hears a strange, rhythmic tapping sound approaching. He hits the deck, realizing it's the same footsteps that chased him earlier talk about out of the frying pan and into the fire. In a moment of pure desperation, he tries to bluff, thinking if they kill him, he'll just become an even peskier ghost. The sound draws him to a window, where he cautiously peeks out into the eerie night. Outside, in the overgrown courtyard of the ancient temple, something glowing red is moving through the grass. But it's not a monster or a ghost, it's a pair of bright red, high-heeled shoes, walking all by themselves. The shoes step closer, and from Yuanzi's terrified perspective, they look impossibly huge. He's completely dumbfounded, wondering what kind of bizarre haunting involves Western dancing shoes in a Ming Dynasty temple. Hiding himself, he watches the shoes carefully, trying to make sense of this new, surreal threat. The shoes stop moving, and the sudden silence sends a shiver down his spine as he waits for what comes next. Our boy lets out a shaky breath, trying to calm his nerves after the creepy shoe incident. Suddenly, the old hand mirror he's carrying begins to vibrate, catching his full attention. He realizes the mirror is reflecting a dark spirit latched onto his back, the source of his agonizing shoulder pain. With no other choice, he bolts, his spiritual form blazing through the temple grounds like a purple comet. He pushes himself to the limit, knowing he's just one step away from the safety of the main hall. The spiritual pressure on his back is immense, making this short sprint feel like an eternity. He finally dives through the doorway and collapses, completely drained from the ordeal. A smirk crosses his face, his gamble paid off, and the main hall is indeed a safe zone. As he rests, he feels the gnawing pain in his shoulder finally begin to fade away. He realizes how close he came to death. If the shoes and the spirit had attacked together, he would have been done for. Catching his breath, our boy leans against the door, realizing he just survived the most basic horror rule: always shut the door on the monster. Suddenly, a system notification pops up, confirming he's completed the first main quest: survive for 3 hours. He's dumbfounded as the system interface materializes around him, confirming the nightmare was just the first part of a quest. His reward for not dying is a corpse-suppressing talisman, a nice chunk of experience, and a newly unlocked inventory. The system grants him 36 hours of rest before the spirit realm reopens, giving him a much-needed break from the terror. With a huff, his spiritual form begins to dematerialize, pulling him out of the cursed temple. In a flash, he's standing in the middle of his own bedroom, completely disoriented by the sudden change of scenery. The familiar sight of his desk and bed confirms that he's actually back in the human world. He collapses onto his bed, overwhelmed with relief, and thinking even the air in his room smells sweet after that hellscape. But his peace shatters when he frantically searches himself and realizes the talisman he just earned is completely gone. Just as he's about to have a full-blown meltdown, a system window suddenly materializes before him. Turns out, the talisman is safe and sound in his new inventory, which he can access just by thinking about it. Our boy realizes this whole supernatural nightmare is structured just like a game, but his level is still a big fat 0. His first thought is to call his cousin and spill everything, but he quickly reconsiders. He remembers the ominous warning from that tatted-up investigator to report anything unusual, but telling regular authorities about a spirit realm would just earn him a one-way ticket to the loony bin. He puts 2 and 2 together: his roommate's disappearance, and those investigators must be connected to this spirit world. Taking a leap of faith, he dials the number on the business card they left him. The guy on the other end answers and casually asks him how his trip to the spirit realm was. Yuanzi is left completely speechless, realizing these guys knew exactly what was happening to him all along. The investigator on the other end congratulates our boy on becoming a spirit realm walker, explaining he's an official agent while Yuanzi is just a freelancer. He lays out the options: join their organization for training and support, or stay independent but get 0 help from them. Without a second of hesitation, Yuanzi practically screams into the phone that he'll join and dedicate his life to the country. The investigator is amused by his spirit but tells him to get some sleep. They'll pick him up at 8 a.m. because even saving the world has office hours. Yuanzi agrees but sheepishly admits he hid the business card his roommate gave him, to which the investigator just commends his caution. The night passes over the sprawling city, with our boy now tangled in a world he never knew existed. And just like that, the next day arrives. A haggard Yuanzi stumbles out of his room, clutching his stomach and begging his grandma for food. Turns out, he didn't sleep a wink, haunted by visions of that creepy spirit on his shoulder every time he closed his eyes. His guardian asks why he's up so early, while his aunt just smirks, teasing him about looking like he was up to no good all night. His aunt, convinced he was up to something dirty, threatens to check his trash, but our boy is too exhausted to care, sarcastically telling her to search his whole room. As she begins her raid, Yuanzi slumps into the living room to join his grandpa, who's just chilling and watching TV. Trying to get some answers, Yuanzi brings up the old Yuling tunnel incident, remembering his grandpa was part of the search team back then. The old man gets cagey and claims to have forgotten, but Yuanzi presses on, mentioning the panic it caused until his grandma yells at him to brush his teeth. While cooking, his grandma casually drops a bombshell. She recalls that the one worker they found ended up disappearing again later. This kicks off a family debate, with Grandma calling Grandpa senile for forgetting, while he just scoffs that they shouldn't get obsessed with gossip. But for Yuanzi, it all clicks into place that poor worker must have re-entered the spirit realm and never made it back out. Staring at his reflection while brushing his teeth, he realizes the mountain god temple was a death trap, and siding with the authorities is his only real shot at survival. With his mind made up and his mission clear, he quickly finishes getting ready for the day. Shoving some food in his mouth, Yuanzi bolts for the door, yelling back to his family that he has no time to waste. From the apartment complex, his grandpa watches him go, a silent and knowing look on his face. Sure enough, Waiting just around the corner is a ridiculously long, high-end limousine. Our boy peeks out from behind a wall, cautiously assessing if this is his official ride or an ambush. A voice from the tinted window cuts through the silence, telling the kid to get in the car. With no other real options, Yuanzi shrugs and heads for the door, ready to face the music. Inside, a man sipping a martini asks what he wants to drink, and Yuanzi just casually asks for a cola. The man deadpans that he'll have to buy it himself, making Yuanzi wonder if he can expense it to the organization. Getting down to business, the man explains he's here to handle all the entry, paperwork, and basic training. This sharp-dressed man introduces himself as Li Dongze, a squad captain, and officially welcomes Yuanzi as a colleague. As the limo speeds down the highway, Li Dongze begins the briefing, explaining the spirit realm is a force that completely defies science. He explains that the spirit realm exists within reality, but only the chosen can ever step foot inside. The way one is chosen, he continues, is by obtaining a special character card. These cards grant a class and a trial mission, and they can pop up anywhere from the street to a sketchy online link. Passing the trial is just the first step. You have to keep diving in to get stronger, though not every mission is a death sentence. Li Dongze gives himself as an example a level 3 scout who nearly bit the dust in a solo mission he only gets every 3 months. Our boy immediately gets it, comparing the whole system to a game dungeon, which seems to impress the captain. Pouring another drink, Li Dongze clarifies that solo dungeons are the real killers, while multiplayer missions are far more forgiving. Yuanzi, arms crossed, wants to know exactly why the solo runs have such a trash-tier survival rate. Turns out, multiplayer realms have a mix of classes, but solo dungeons are tailor-made to push your specific class to its absolute limit. He recalls his own brutal trials, playing detective, being hunted, and surviving the wilderness, all designed to test his scout abilities. Yuanzi pieces it together. His Night God class means all his solo dungeons are straight out of a horror movie. This leads him to ask if his friend Bing is in a spirit realm, but Li Dongze drops a bombshell. The authorities have already declared him dead. Our boy is completely floored. Li Dongze explains that Bing's been missing for 4 days, way longer than any normal dungeon should last. Desperate, Yuanzi latches onto the idea that higher-level dungeons might just take more time. Li Dongze calmly admits he isn't sure, but figures that's probably the case. The harsh reality sets in for Yuanzi. He's too weak to help now, but he holds on to a sliver of hope that Bing is just in a high-tier dungeon. Before moving on, Li Dongze asks him a strange question. What's his morality value? Yuanzi checks his stats and reports the initial value of 60, completely clueless about its importance. Li Dongze then reveals the system's deadliest trap. If that value drops, a citywide hit is put on your head for all players to see. The terrifying implication hits him like a truck. He has to walk the straight and narrow, or he'll be hunted for the rest of his life. Yuanzi's mind immediately races to the gutter, asking if his private study habits will tank his morality score. He dramatically collapses in despair, screaming that his life is basically over if that's the case. Li Dongze just bursts out laughing, completely floored by our boy's ridiculous priorities. He clarifies that the system only cares about major crimes like theft and murder, not personal hobbies. With a sly grin, he simply tells Yuanzi to be a good person, as if it's that easy. Yuanzi starts pondering the system's true purpose, deciding for now, hell, just help old ladies cross the street. Riding in the car, he speculates that maybe even the officials don't fully understand why the morality value exists. The car screeches to a halt as Li Dongze announces they've arrived at their destination. Stepping out, Yuanzi cheekily asks if sponsoring a poor young lady is a crime or just a lapse in private morality. Li Dongze explains that gaining points is simple, noting that even evil organizations do charity to stay off the wanted list. Li Dongze reveals a twisted loophole. With enough cash, you can kill freely and just buy back your morality points through charity. As they head up the elevator, he begins to explain the official organizations, starting with their own, the Five Elements Alliance. He lists the 5 factions, which represent classes like Wood Demons and Fire Masters, leaving Yuanzi wondering why they sound like monsters. Turns out the alliance is a recent thing. For years, these factions were independent and constantly at each other's throats. Li Dongze then goes on a wild rant, calling the 100 Flower Society a bunch of tree-hugging fanatics he wants to kick. He continues trashing the other factions for their real estate schemes and weird bacteria cultivation, leaving our boy utterly speechless. With a smug grin, he declares his own faction, the White Tiger Corps, to be the only perfect class, prompting Yuanzi to question that logic. He breaks it down like a video game. Red Fire are berserkers, Water God are mages, and Yuanzi jokes if that makes scouts a cheap support item. That joke did not land. Li Dongze's face darkens with fiery rage, threatening to bash our boy's head in if he were a fire master. Just as Yuanzi is apologizing for his life, the elevator dings, signaling that they've finally reached their floor. Li Dongze admits that while his scout class is perfect, there's one orthodox class that's even more busted: the Night God. Our boy's ears perk up, wondering if this class is really strong enough to solo a 10-man squad, and asks for the details. As they walk, Li Dongze explains that Night Gods are master assassins who can talk to souls and even control corpses, making them a one-man army. The catch is, they're absurdly rare. The Shanghai branch has 0 because the capital's main sect poaches every last one of them. He sighs dramatically, lost in thought about how badly he wishes he had a Night God on his team. Suddenly, he snaps out of his daydream as a thought finally clicks in his head. He turns to Yuanzi and asks what his class is, warning him that he better not be one of those hot-headed firemasters. With a sly grin, our boy casually reveals that, well, he thinks he's a Night God. The revelation hits Li Dongze like a truck, leaving the old man utterly speechless and frozen on the spot. After a long, silent pause, the gears in Li Dongze's head finally start turning again. He explodes with energy, grabbing our boy by the shoulders and screaming in disbelief, asking if he's really a Night God. Before Yuanzi can even react, the old man pulls him into a bone-crushing hug, ecstatic that he just stumbled upon a living legend. Li Dongze is lost in a fantasy, realizing that every major faction would go to war just to get a Night God on their side. He gets right in Yuanzi's face, explaining how rival gangs will even use seduction to poach a talent of this caliber. Composing himself, he asks for our boy's Spirit Realm ID, to which Yuanzi casually replies, "Primordial Heavenly Lord." The ridiculously edgy name stops Li Dongze in his tracks, and for a second, he's completely unimpressed. He forces out a laugh, awkwardly complimenting the name while Yuanzi just stares back, knowing it sounds dumb. Shaking it off, Li Dongze immediately gets on the phone to set up the contract, offering a killer salary of 20,000 a month. Our boy's eyes turn into literal money signs at the mention of that salary, and he eagerly gives his new boss 2 thumbs up. Li Dongze begins the tour, explaining that the regular staff are basically personal assistants for Spirit Realm walkers like him. He then leads Yuanzi down the hall, telling him they're headed to his personal office to make things official. Inside, he tells our boy to have a seat on the couch while he gets the contract printed out. Yuanzi waits patiently as Li Dongze gets to work, preparing to officially sign his new golden goose. Suddenly, a woman named Guan Ya, a level 2 scout, leans through the doorway, playfully asking if they need her help. Our boy is immediately flustered, remembering a previous encounter where she'd teasingly demanded to check his phone for self-study material. Li Dongze says her timing is perfect, handing her the contract for Yuanzi, as he has to make an urgent call to his superior. She smirks at Yuanzi, congratulating the little boy who's into mature women on passing his trial, while Li Dongze just tells him to get used to her jokes. Li Dongze scolds Guan Ya for teasing the new recruit, reminding her that our boy is just a college kid. The moment he's gone, she gets right in Yuanzi's face, provocatively asking if he wants her to teach him more about the spirit realms. Our boy can only blush, wondering why Chief Li looks so damn happy as he practically floats out of the room. Guan Ya snaps him out of it, telling him to fill out the contract and hand over his ID. She casually props her legs up, asking if his squad leader at least gave him the basic rundown. As he signs, she explains his old ID is now useless. He'll get a new one with special privileges like high-speed rail access. But then she stops, asking why he used his real name in the spirit realm, pointing out he should have been warned not to. Yuanzi is dumbfounded, asking if that's a problem, and she confirms there's a very good reason for the rule. Turns out, spirit realm classes are split between lawful and evil, and the evil ones hunt people like him for sport, making his real name a death sentence. Yuanzi realizes what this means and asks if her name is fake too, but she just playfully tells him to take a guess. She explains that while they're usually the hunters, sometimes they become the prey, prompting our boy to praise what an amazing hunter she must be. Guan Ya gets right in his face, teasing him for being a sweet talker and asking how many girlfriends he's had, which leaves him blushing and admitting he's single. She's shocked, saying his trash bin was so clean she figured he had a girlfriend, making Yuanzi wonder if she and his aunt have some weird trash fetish. With a wicked grin, she pulls out her phone and offers to buy him a girlfriend online from some shady-looking app. Our boy gives her a thumbs up, saying he prefers real girls, which makes Guan Ya burst out laughing, admitting she likes his style. Feeling a sudden surge of confidence, Yuanzi smoothly replies that he likes her too. But his attempt to be slick falls completely flat as she just gives him a deadpan, unimpressed stare. She tells him she doesn't believe for a second that he's single, so he swears an oath to heaven that if he's lying, a car can hit him the second he steps outside. Getting down to business, Guan Ya explains that their squad is one of 10 in the district, and that since he was recruited by the leader, He's now permanently part of the White Tiger Guard. Our boy, in full-on suck-up mode, puffs out his chest and declares he'll stick with Sister Guanya from now on. She just chuckles, admitting she loves dealing with energetic young guys, and asks if he's finished filling out his registration form. Reading it over, she scoffs at his age and his ridiculously grand title, Primordial Heaven Lord, warning him that he'll get his ass kicked with a name like that. But as her eyes scan down the page, her playful expression vanishes in an instant. She reads his listed class under her breath, completely dumbfounded. Night Wanderer. A heavy silence fills the room as she tries to process what she just saw. She whips her head around, her voice laced with disbelief, and asks if he's seriously a Night Wanderer. With a smug grin and a confident thumbs up, our boy confirms that he is indeed the real deal. Guanya is still reeling, unable to believe that this kid is actually a legendary Night Wanderer, but our boy just grins, confirming it with absolute confidence. Suddenly, their squad leader Lee Dongze erupts in celebration, ecstatic that their team finally has a Night Wanderer. Guanya ignores him, getting dangerously close and lifting Yuanzi's chin, making him blush furiously. She gives him a stern warning. Now that he's on her team, he belongs to her and better not look at other women. Completely flustered, Yuanzi swears his undying loyalty, which she finds amusingly obedient. But her playful mood vanishes as she notices his file lists him as level 0, which is impossible after a trial quest. Her expression hardens as she realizes something is seriously wrong with his record. Her eyes then fall upon the name of the trial quest he supposedly completed. Yuling Tunnel. The name alone sends a chill down her spine. That place isn't a trial. It's a death sentence. Her face contorts in sheer disbelief as she demands to know why he was sent to that specific dungeon. She grabs him, asking for confirmation that his trial was indeed Yuling Tunnel, leaving our boy dumbfounded by her sudden panic. Completely oblivious, Yuanzi just sweats nervously and asks if there are guides for the dungeon since he was hoping to ask about trial quests. But his question is met with a heavy, soul-crushing sigh from one of the other investigators, Wang Tai, leaving Yuanzi even more confused. Our boy snaps, demanding to know why he's sighing, but Wang Tai just looks down with an expression of pure pity. The horrifying realization finally dawns on Yuanzi. He must have pulled the unluckiest blind box of all time. Guanya storms off, muttering about his rotten luck, and tells Wang Tai to come to her desk, leaving Yuanzi frozen in fear. Wang Tai tries to explain that it's a walker's duty to submit reports for rewards, but Yuanzi is already trying to convince himself he'll be fine if he just sticks to the safe zone. But Wang Tai cuts him off, explaining that Yuling Tunnel is a special case and that it's better if he just reads the file himself. He pulls up a document on his laptop, the official summary of all the trial realms in the city. Yuanzi scrolls through the list of dungeons, seeing quests like surviving with a ghost bride or escaping wraiths, and thinks they all look pretty simple. He notes that most trials have a high survival rate, but he's confused why Yuling Tunnel is S rank when most trial dungeons are A rank at minimum. He clicks down the list, finally reaching the entry for his assigned mission. The file is horrifyingly sparse. Difficulty and requirements are both listed as unknown, with a grim story about a crew of 12 workers who all perished. And then he sees the final warning, written in bold red letters. No one has ever successfully cleared Yuling Tunnel. The truth hits him like a truck. This isn't just a difficult mission, it's a one-way ticket to the grave. Meanwhile, across the city in some high-rise office, a different scene is playing out. A man leisurely swirls a glass of red wine, clearly in a celebratory mood. It's none other than Lee Dongze, that snake with the ridiculous mustache, puffing on a cigar. He muses that sending a rookie with a clean slate into a death trap is the perfect move for some ambitious centurion, and it just so happens to align with his own plans perfectly. Lee Dongze is on the phone with his superior, a centurion, bragging that he's recruited a new Night Wanderer for the White Tiger Guard. He hangs up, puffing his cigar with a smug grin, already picturing a glorious future for his squad. But his victory lap is cut short when Guanya bursts into the room, looking like she's seen a ghost. She frantically reports that their new recruit, our boy Yuanzi, was just assigned the Yuling Tunnel mission for his trial. The news hits Li Dong so hard he does a full-on spit take with his expensive wine. He leaps to his feet in a panic, utterly dumbfounded that the kid was sent to that legendary death trap. Furious, he immediately turns on Guanya, blaming her for this catastrophic mess-up. The scene flashes to our boy Yuanzi, whose soul has clearly left his body as he stares at his screen. He looks over his shoulder with dead eyes, asking his new squad leader if he even has a chance of making it out alive. Lee Dongze can only look down in shame, completely silent, because he knows the answer is a hard no. Lee Dongze grabs our boy, explaining that the trial is every walker's first solo dungeon, and that's exactly what makes it so damn dangerous. He tells Yuanzi this is the price for power, a test where no one can help him, and the kid just starts tearing up at the grim reality. Lee Dongze promises to search the archives for any strategy on the Yuling tunnel, but makes it clear, if he can't find anything, Yuanzi is on his own. With no other options, he tells Yuanzi to go home and wait, ordering Guanya to escort the poor kid out. And just like that, our boy is sent on his way, walking towards a mission with almost zero chance of survival. He and Guanya leave the headquarters, the weight of the impending death sentence hanging heavy in the air. Yuanzi tries to make a dark joke, asking if this is the last time she'll see him, and noting he's about to become a real ghost. But Guanya, ever the professional, just smirks and tells him not to worry. She won't stay a widow for long before ordering him into the car. Her savage comeback completely fries his brain, leaving him utterly speechless while she just laughs at his reaction. The brief moment of humor fades as he slumps into the car seat, the grim reality of his situation sinking back in. In a rare moment of sincerity, Guanya tells him the squad leader will do what he can, but all she can offer is her best wishes. Left alone, our boy steels his resolve, the weight of their final goodbyes settling in as he prepares for the worst. Meanwhile, back at the sleek, modern headquarters of the organization, life goes on as usual. Guanya is already back at her desk, working alongside her colleague, Wang Tai, in the quiet office. Turns out, she's not just a field agent. She's also meticulously profiling her teammates in her own unique way. She jots down a hilarious assessment of Yuanzi, labeling him a primordial heavenly lord and a Scorpio who's easily seduced. Her pen, fittingly, even has the Scorpio zodiac sign right on it, showing her dedication to the bit. After finishing her notes, she takes a moment, perhaps wondering if her quirky analysis will ever be needed again. She then files the note away in the official Squad 2 personnel records, making her zodiac reading canon. Leaning back, she calls out to Wang Tai, asking him point blank if he thinks their new kid actually has a snowball's chance in hell. Wang Tai keeps typing, telling her not to count on the Tai sect for help with the Yuling tunnel. He reasons that if it were profitable, they would have sent their own people long ago for the S-rank rewards. But maybe our boy has a chance if he's got some good items. Guanya immediately shoots that idea down, explaining that items are priceless, and just having one at his level is a miracle. Giving him random gear is a death sentence. They'd most likely lose both the man and the treasure. She lays out the grim reality. You either risk your life for items in spirit realms, or you hunt and kill other walkers for their loot. Both methods are trash-tier options because if you die in a realm, the items are lost forever, a huge loss for the organization. Suddenly, Wang Tai stops typing, having just realized something terrible. He points out that the Yuling tunnel opened right after the Qingming festival, meaning Yuanzi's luck is just the absolute worst. The scene shifts, taking us further up the food chain to a lavish office. A man with a distinct mustache, Lee Dongze, gets a notification, clearly keeping a close eye on this whole mess. On the phone with his superior, Centurion Fu, Lee Dongze reports that their new recruit got stuck in the Yuling tunnel, a notorious newbie bug dungeon. He explains the grim history of the place. It has 2 stages, and a whole construction team was wiped out there, with the lone survivor getting dragged back in to die. Lee Dongze then tries to butter up the Centurion, suggesting he use his influence to get info from the Tai sect, who have the best Night Wanderer data. He appeals to the Centurion's honor, reminding him of the White Tiger Guard's principle, never abandon a comrade. With the message sent, he can only hope the Centurion agrees to help save this promising new Night Wanderer. Meanwhile, our boy Yuanzi finally makes it back to his apartment building, looking completely drained. He quietly opens the door, announcing his return to his grandma. His guardian immediately notices how pale he is, saying he looks like he's lost his soul, but Yuanzi just brushes it off. She tells him his cousin is in the dining room, and Yuanzi walks in to see him. His cousin looks up from his meal and asks Yuanzi why he was looking for him last night, leaving our boy dumbfounded. Yuanzi decides against asking for help, but his cousin already knows it's about Lei Yibing's case. The cousin admits that since Li Dongze is involved, even he can't do anything, when suddenly their aunt pops in. She playfully floats over, presenting a box of anti-wrinkle cream she says Grandma insisted she buy for him. He flatly rejects the gift, telling his auntie he has no use for that stuff. In an instant, both our boy and his cousin are sweating bullets, absolutely terrified by an off-screen voice. It's their grandma, and she's pinching his cheek, scolding him for looking 40 when he's 30 and asking how hell ever find a wife. She launches into a full-blown lecture, bringing up an embarrassing story from last year to make her point. In a flashback, their grandpa had to angrily correct a visitor who mistook his haggard-looking grandson for his son. The cousin tried to play it cool with sunglasses, but the visitor just called his look unique, making it even worse. Back in the present, the cousin has had enough and uses a missing persons case as an excuse to shut down his grandma's nagging. Our boy is completely lost, as his cousin suddenly gets serious. The cousin reveals that 2 people have vanished in Yuling Tunnel, and the camera footage is just bizarre. He warns them to keep it quiet, reminding them he's under an NDA for this case. Grandma immediately chimes in, asking if the place is haunted again, and why it's not sealed off yet. The auntie begs for more juicy details, but our boy is lost in thought, wondering if they stumbled into the mountain god temple like he did. He grimly speculates that those 2 poor souls won't last 3 hours in there. He then recalls what Li Dong said about the spirit realm, realizing that's where all the missing people must be going. The scene suddenly shifts to a traditional-looking estate in capital city. Sunlight streams through the trees in a serene, almost mystical way. A hand is seen casually fanning itself, hinting at a powerful new player entering the game. An old master, elder son, is enjoying a peaceful afternoon when his subordinate approaches with a message. The subordinate informs him that a letter has arrived from the Fu family's son. It's from Fu Qingyang, and he's asking for information and advice about a new night wanderer his team recruited for the Yuling Tunnel trial. The old man's grip on his fan tightens, the name of that cursed place clearly striking a nerve. He muses that the tunnel always opens around the Qingming festival, a time when many try their luck but none ever succeed. He decides to release the data, explaining that their sect abandoned that S-rank dungeon long ago after it became something far worse than a trial. His advice is cold and simple. Abandon the Night Wanderer, because investing in the doomed is a fool's errand. The subordinate respectfully accepts the grim command. A flashback reveals the fate of past challengers. One was consumed by shadows, another dismembered, both failing within minutes. Elder Son rises, explaining that after witnessing such horrific failures, the elders reevaluated the tunnel and gave up on it completely. Elder Son muses that if someone could finally clear the tunnel, it would end his sect's long-standing obsession. He then informs his subordinate that the sect master is summoning all night wanderers for a major announcement. With a final command, he dismisses the man to begin preparations. The subordinate bows his head in acknowledgement, ready to carry out the order. Meanwhile, completely oblivious to the high-level politics, our boy Yuanzi is just chilling in his room. He's fast asleep, getting some much-needed rest after all the recent chaos. Waking up, he's now playing a horror game with his aunt, casually calling her out for being a pervert. She fires back, passionately explaining that horror games are about strategy and understanding the enemy's patterns. Her words strike a chord, and Yuanzi has a massive epiphany. If the spirit realm is like a game, he can beat it with strategy, not just power. Just as his mind is racing with this new possibility, his phone starts ringing. It's a call from Guanya. His focus sharpens, the new game strategy solidifying in his mind. On the other end, Guanya tells him the squad leader sent over more detailed data straight to his email. Our boy thanks her, and full of newfound swagger, promises to treat her to dinner once he clears his trial. He immediately logs into his email, seeing the new file waiting for him. Guanya, meanwhile, seems a little taken aback by his sudden confidence. Yuanzi is already scrolling through the data as they speak, his mind racing. She plays it cool, telling him she'll be waiting for that dinner he promised. He confidently confirms, completely unaware of her underlying worries. With the call over, he puts his phone down, ready to dive deep into the new intel. But Guanya sighs, collapsing onto her bed, wondering if even the Tai sex data will be enough to help him. Without a second thought, our boy clicks to download the attachment that could save his life. He immediately opens the file, ready to absorb every last drop of intel. The document loads, and his eyes widen. The details match his trial quest perfectly, confirming it's an S-rank, death-type solo mission. But then he gets hit with the first bombshell. The spirit realm isn't a tunnel at all, but a creepy Ming Dynasty temple. The report, written by a previous challenger, details the temple's lore, mentioning a powerful being called the Lady of Sandow Mountain. This scout explains that surviving 3 hours is easy unless you're attacked by a vengeful spirit, which he easily suppressed, and that the temple's candles offer a safe zone. But there's a catch. The candles eliminate fear, a fatal mistake in a place like this, and they can't be moved. Yuanzi smirks, realizing the safe zone is a classic double-edged sword, a game mechanic designed to force you out of your comfort zone. The scout's log continues, stating that after half an hour, he heard inhuman screams from the courtyard and decided to investigate. A look of grim understanding crosses Yuanzi's face. The safe zone is real, but the true key to survival isn't some goddess, it's the candles themselves. The report continues, revealing the screams came from a banyan tree in the eastern courtyard, a place you must never look back from. Turns out, the scout was confronted by a pair of red dancing shoes that challenged him to a dance he couldn't possibly follow. He barely escaped with broken ribs, concluding the shoes were a relentless rule-type item and that the quest was a cruel joke for any low-level challenger. Having read the tragic end of the report, Yuanzi finally closes the file. He shuts down the computer, the grim reality of the mission sinking in. Leaning back, our boy starts dissecting the threats, the shoulder-padding spirit, the banyan tree, and now, the killer dancing shoes. He grimly deduces that the missing construction crew was likely stomped to pieces by those very shoes. He knows he's got some moves thanks to his uncle, but he's not arrogant enough to think he can beat what a real night wanderer couldn't. A smug thought crosses his mind: his uncle could probably dance with those cursed shoes for an eternity. But the humor fades, replaced by a steely resolve in his eyes. He's ready to take on this death trap. Suddenly, our boy erupts in laughter, realizing the last guy failed because of bad memory, a problem he can easily overcome by overloading his brain. The scene shifts to a steamy bathroom, where someone is enjoying a relaxing soak. Turns out, it's Guanya, unwinding in a bubble bath after a long day. Her phone buzzes with an incoming call from none other than Zhang Yuanqing. She answers, casually asking if he's finally finished reading the grim report she sent him. He confirms he has, but admits he needs clarification on what a rule-type item actually is. She explains that the organization classifies items into types like cost and rule, though some are above her clearance level. While cost-type items are one thing, rule-type items are far rarer and more dangerous, requiring you to crack their specific pattern. The red dancing shoes are a prime example. If you can figure out and complete their dance, you might just get to claim them. She warns him not to get his hopes up, but our boy's already thinking ahead, asking if he can bring medicine into the spirit realm. Guanya explains that while most items are a no-go, ingested medicine is an exception, but she's not sure about his loophole of just holding it in his mouth. Our boy hangs up, figuring he'll just have to test the theory himself, and thanks her for the crucial intel. With a sly smile, she wishes him luck and adds a cryptic little tidbit about it being a good day for Scorpios. The countdown begins, and with only 5 minutes on the clock, the pressure is officially on. He lays out his secret weapon for the mission, a handful of potent-looking blue pills. Yuanzi wastes no time, throwing on his jacket and getting into mission-ready mode. With the timer now at a nail-biting 1 minute, he quickly laces up his shoes. He steps out of his room, fully prepped and ready to dive headfirst into the danger zone. Just before the timer hits 0, he pops the pills into his mouth, hoping his gamble pays off. The system kicks in, dropping him into a solo death-type quest where his only goal is to survive for 3 grueling hours. A wave of energy washes over Yuanzi as he's forcefully teleported into the quest zone. He materializes in the middle of a vast, desolate hall, the teleportation particles fading around him. Our boy cracks a smirk, sensing that everything is going exactly as planned. Turns out, he never actually swallowed those pills, spitting them right back into his hand. He knew he couldn't bring items in, so he cheekily used his mouth as a temporary inventory to get them through. With his secret weapon secured, he tucks the pills away for the real challenge ahead. He glances outside, noting the grim, perpetual night that blankets this entire spirit realm. Deciding to treat this death trap like a video game, he approaches a candlelit altar to investigate. He remembers that in games, you have to interact with the environment, so he reaches out to touch a candle. A system window pops up, revealing it's an eternal candle, a discovery he never made before because he was too afraid to touch anything. He recalls Guanya's intel. The candle is a cost-type item that purges fear, but right now, fear is the only thing keeping him alive. His new objective is to explore the eastern courtyard, but he sets a hard limit, 15 minutes max, or the shoulder-padding spirit will get him. He knows the blue pills he smuggled in are his only trump card against the deadly red dancing shoes, but it's still a huge gamble. But even with all this planning and intel, the raw terror of the situation starts to sink in. For a moment, our boy just wants to curl up in a ball and not face the horrors waiting outside. Shaking it off, he peeks out towards the east courtyard, grimly accepting this is a try-and-die kind of game. He takes a deep breath, realizing he can't just camp in the main hall forever, or hell starve to death. There's no choice but to risk it. The blade is going to fall eventually, so he might as well face it head-on. The eastern courtyard is dead, silent, an overgrown and desolate ruin just waiting to spring a trap. With his resolve hardened, he steps into the eerie courtyard, ready for whatever this hellscape throws at him. The night air is thick with dread as our boy begins his grim patrol through the ruins. He carefully makes his way across a rickety stone bridge, the murky water below hiding who knows what. Every step is deliberate. The silence of this place is more terrifying than any scream. His eyes land on a massive, gnarled banyan tree that seems to suck all the light out of the area. He recalls the intel warning him about this tree, but figures he has to check it to advance his exploration progress anyway. The crumbling walls and broken structures offer little comfort, only framing the oppressive night sky. He then spots an old well, and immediately nopes out his horror movie senses, tell him that's a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Continuing his sweep of the perimeter, he tries to get a lay of the land without triggering any obvious traps. But his caution is for nothing when a loud crack echoes under his foot. He stepped on something brittle. Turns out, he just woke up the welcoming party. A horrifying skeletal corpse lurches up from the ground, ready to play. Our boy just scoffs, thinking he's seen so many corpses that this kind of thing doesn't even scare him. But a closer look reveals this wasn't a normal death. The victim's head was brutally twisted 180 degrees. He's left wondering what kind of monstrous power could have possibly done something so gruesome. As he crouches on a wall to survey the area, a chilling wind sweeps through the courtyard. Then, a sinister voice begins to whisper his full name, Zhang Yuanqing, seemingly carried on the wind itself. Hess completely rattled. This isn't some random ghoul, it's something that knows exactly who he is. Realizing this is a spiritual attack, he quickly reaches into his jacket for a specific countermeasure. He pulls out a small, ancient-looking mirror, bracing himself for whatever is coming. As he holds it up, a strange, black sludge begins to bubble and ooze from the mirror's surface. The sludge forms into a terrifying female spirit with flowing black hair, her voice calling his name one last time. The spirit beckons him closer, whispering his name with a chilling intimacy. Our boy absolutely loses it, letting out a string of curses as he turns tail and bolts. Her voice echoes in his mind, his name repeating over and over like a hellish mantra. He doesn't even think, he just runs, putting as much distance as he can between himself and that thing. He vaults over walls and rooftops, desperate to escape the haunted courtyard. The only thing on his mind is getting away from that terrifying voice. Finally, he collapses behind a building, gasping for air, relieved that the voice didn't follow him. He recalls the report. The night wanderer said not to look back, which must be the ghost's trigger. He tries to reassure himself that if he just avoids turning around, he should be safe, right? But the terror has completely broken his spirit. All he can think is that he just wants to go home. Just as he catches his breath, he realizes he's not out of the woods yet. This whole area feels cursed. Suddenly, his senses flare up, alerting him to a presence inside a nearby abandoned building. He stares up at the structure, knowing full well that walking in there is probably a trash-tier idea. A strange, cold wind pushes back as he cautiously nudges the ancient wooden door open. Our boy cleverly kicks a loose stone forward, testing the ground for any nasty surprises. But as the entrance is revealed, a sinister purple aura immediately flows out, confirming his worst fears. The night goes unnervingly still as the wind rustles through the tall grass around him. He hesitates, thinking that maybe he should just turn back and forget he saw anything. But his mission comes first. Steeling his nerves, he decides he has to explore what's inside. Peeking around the corner, he carefully scans the dark, dusty interior for any sign of the ghost. Inside, he spots a wooden ladle on a table, and a crazy idea sparks in his mind. He remembers an old wives' tale that a young boy's urine can ward off evil spirits. But then a moment of crisis hits him. He's not a kid anymore. So would it even work? He shakes his head, telling himself he's been too soft and it's time to get serious. With a grim look, he stares down at the ladle, preparing to do what must be done. The sheer absurdity of the plan makes him hesitate, a drop of sweat rolling down his face. He slams the ladle back down on the table, completely abandoning the trash-tier plan. With his hands behind his back, he gazes out the window, looking for a better solution. An old saying he once heard begins to surface in his memory. The words remind him that such crude tricks are useless against illusions. The real truth lies within one's heart. He ends up with a soggy, crumpled piece of paper, blushing at his own ridiculous plan. But in a moment of pure delusion, our boy beams with pride, thinking he's an absolute genius. With that nonsense out of his system, he steels himself to properly investigate the eerie temple grounds. He finds an axe in the first building, dismissing it as a simple psychological comfort item. Armed with a flimsy stick, he cautiously approaches the next house, ready for whatever's inside. Peeking around the door, he scans the area, the silence of the night doing nothing to calm his nerves. Turns out the second house is an armory, stocked with weapons from a bygone era. But he's utterly unimpressed, tossing the stick and axe aside like they're cheap junk. He remembers his research. His phone records did say it was normal for this temple to have an armory. Just as he lets his guard down, he's hit with a nasty surprise, a dried-up corpse just sitting there, leaving him dumbfounded. Instead of panicking, our boy gets his head back in the game, analyzing how this corpse could have possibly formed. He inspects the body and quickly rules out the red dancing shoes. There are no crushed bones or fatal wounds, but then he spots at two distinct holes in the neck, as if it was sucked dry by some kind of beast. Just as that chilling thought crosses his mind, his danger sense goes absolutely berserk. Without a second thought, he instinctively snatches the nearest weapon he can find from the rack. He drops into a defensive stance, his eyes scanning the darkness, ready for whatever is coming. He pinpoints the source of the threat. It's in the next room and switches to a more practical sword. Cautiously, he creeps towards the brightly lit doorway, bracing himself for the inevitable jump scare. A shadowy blur rockets past his face from the room. He dodged it by a hair's breadth. Leaning against the wall, he's sweating bullets, realizing that was way too close for comfort. Taking a deep breath, our boy cautiously peeks into the room, finding it filled with coffins and a flooded floor. As his eyes adjust, he spots two more mummified corpses lying amongst the caskets. He notices one of them is clutching something shiny, thinking it might be some kind of awl. It's not just any tool, though. It's a golden, ornate weapon, a Buddhist vajra. His gaze drifts to a massive statue of a goddess, and he connects the dots, wondering if the vajra belonged to her. But just as he's piecing it together, a sudden creak from behind him snaps him back to reality. He turns his head just in time to see one of the coffin lids in the previous room begin to shift. The rattling grows more violent. Whatever is inside is trying to claw its way out. Before he can react, a sharp, shadowy spike bursts through his chest from behind in a shocking ambush. The attacker retracts its weapon in a splash of water, leaving Yuanzi utterly dumbfounded and bleeding out. It turns out the attacker was a horrifying creature perched on the temple roof, bathed in a demonic red glow. The thing is a straight-up zombie, a skeletal corpse whose very presence screams danger. Yuanzi, somehow back on his feet, realizes this is bad and his only chance is to get to the main hall. He steels his resolve, a cold determination washing over his face. But his focus is shattered as an overwhelming, sinister aura fills the air, reflecting in his eyes. A familiar, swirling mass of pure hatred with glowing red eyes materializes right in front of him. Our boy just sighs in exasperation, wondering how 15 minutes could have passed so quickly. With his mind in a total panic, he just turns tail and makes a run for it. But the skeletal corpse isn't letting him go, letting out a low, chilling groan. The undead monster unleashes a horrifying shriek, its glowing eyes locking onto our fleeing hero. The skeletal corpse lets out a bone-chilling roar, its jaw unhinging in pure malice. Its single, glowing red eye burns with an unholy light, promising a painful end for our boy. Yuanzi is completely losing it, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. He's bawling his eyes out, screaming for his entire family, even his dead dad, to come save him. Suddenly, a massive crash shakes the ground right behind him as the corpse lands with brutal force. He whips his head around, startled by the sound of his pursuer closing the distance. The undead monstrosity takes a single, deliberate step forward, its intentions crystal clear. It rises from the shadows, an eerie green energy swirling around its head as it exhales a frosty breath. But our boy isn't scared anymore. A bead of sweat rolls down his face as a smirk replaces his fear. He stands on the rooftop, spear in hand, ready to face the monster waiting for him in the courtyard below. The skeletal corpse watches from the shadows as Yuanzi, plagued by a vengeful spirit, makes a mad dash for the exit. But this undead creature is anything but slow, landing with a ferocious agility while wondering why its prey looks so modern. It lunges with blinding speed, making our boy question everything he knows about zombies. This thing is way too nimble. He flees in a full-blown panic, screaming that this is just too much to handle with the spirit still latched onto him. Suddenly, he realizes he can't outrun it. There's no point in delaying the inevitable. He slams on the brakes, digging his heels into the stone courtyard with grim determination. In a flash, he spins around, swinging his spear to meet the charging monster head-on. All the fear on his face is gone, replaced by the ice-cold focus of a true warrior. With a deft movement, he uses the flat of his spear to perfectly deflect the creature's deadly attack. The skeletal corpse stumbles past, its momentum broken, leaving Yuanzi standing firm, ready for the real fight to begin. The monster's attack misses, shattering the stone ground where Yuanzi just stood. Now face to face, our boy holds his ground against the towering, ghoulish figure. He suddenly spots the gaping hole in its chest, and it clicks this is the senior brother from the phone call. The corpse lets out a furious roar, its eyes glowing with a menacing green light. It then lashes out with its tattered robes, which morph into shadowy tendrils trying to grab him. The whip-like appendages slice through the air, intent on crushing our boy. But Yuanzi is too agile, ducking under the attack and preparing his own counter. He leaps clean over the monster's head, positioning himself for a strike from behind. With a swift motion, his spear slices down with deadly intent. The effort clearly takes a toll on him as he grits his teeth, feeling the strain of the battle. But our boy is left completely dumbfounded as his spear attack draws his own blood. He realizes with horror that his best shot didn't even scratch it. This thing has an iron body. The corpse lets out a furious roar, its glowing green eyes locking onto him with pure hatred. In a flash, its hand transforms into a monstrous claw, radiating a blood-red aura. Before Yuanzi can even blink, the demonic appendage wraps around his neck and chest. He's then slammed into the ground with enough force to shatter the pavement. The monster just stares down at him, clearly enjoying his utter defeat. Pinned and desperate, he realizes he has to use his trump card, the corpse-suppressing talisman. A brilliant golden talisman materializes from thin air, pulsing with sacred energy. The corpse's eyes widen, as even this mindless beast can sense the immense power about to be unleashed. With a desperate roar, our boy shoves the talisman forward, and its holy light sears the monster's claw, forcing it back. The creature leaps away, finally giving him some breathing room, its fear of the sacred item palpable. He realizes this trash-tier zombie has some intelligence, but he's got bigger problems, begging the spirits clinging to him not to drain his energy now. The corpse is absolutely furious, but Yuanzi's inner bravado channels the talisman, daring the beast to make a move. Knowing a direct fight is suicide, he begins a tactical retreat, keeping the talisman pointed right at the monster. His goal is simple: back up slowly and get to the safety of the temple entrance before this thing gets any funny ideas. But just as he steps back, a dark, cursed energy erupts from the cracked stones, trying to trap his feet. He tears himself free and makes a mad dash for the building, not daring to look back. As he runs, the vengeful spirit's power starts to fade away, leaving him feeling completely drained. He stumbles through the doorway, collapsing just inside, barely escaping with his life. He barely manages to get 1 foot inside the temple, crossing the boundary to safety. A wave of pure relief washes over our boy. He's actually made it out alive. The ancient doors slam shut behind him, sealing the darkness outside where it belongs. But as the adrenaline wears off, he clutches his shoulder, realizing he's been wounded in the escape. He stumbles away from the door, the bloody gash a grim reminder of how close he came to death. His hand starts to turn a sickly color, and he recalls the grim warning about deadly corpse poison. A cold sweat breaks out as he wonders if he just escaped one monster only to die from its poison. Yet, for some reason, the sheer terror he should be feeling just isn't there. He glances at the altar and understands the candle item he's carrying is granting him courage. Realizing the poison is a ticking clock, he knows he can't waste another second and must move on to his second plan. His next objective crystallizes in his mind. He must subdue the cursed red dancing shoes. Our boy starts formulating a plan, thinking he can use the talisman paper and even claim the shoes if he can just crack their rules. But he's painfully aware that with his current strength, he can't just walk up to a zombie and slap a talisman on its forehead. He imagines the pathetic attempt, with the spirit just staring at him, completely unimpressed. In reality, the zombie would probably just chase him down while he screams for his life. It's a trash-tier plan against an intelligent spirit. He glances over at the magic candle, the only reason he's not having a complete mental breakdown right now. Steeling himself, he knows he can't just sit here and let the poison take him. He gets ready to move, knowing inaction is a death sentence. Feeling oddly calm despite the poison, he pulls out some pills, likely an antidote or a booster. With renewed determination, he rises to his feet, realizing if he's going to die, hell do it while fighting his way through hell. Stepping into the courtyard, our boy calls out, baiting the infamous red dancing shoes spirit. He stands his ground in the eerie silence, waiting for the ghost to make its move. Suddenly, the distinct clicking of heels echoes through the night, putting him on high alert. The cursed red shoes appear, and through the open doors, a ghostly figure can be seen waiting. He's dumbfounded as the shoes materialize just a few feet in front of him. The spirit played him perfectly, appearing right between him and the main hall to cut off his escape. He instantly deciphers the ghost's nasty game. It's an invitation to a dance where refusal means death. Cornered, he calls upon his father's blessing, begging for a brain overload state to even the odds. Closing his eyes, he focuses all his will, preparing to unleash his hidden power. A brilliant green light erupts from his eyes as his power fully activates. His mind explodes into 1,000 different timelines, calculating every possible move for the deadly dance. In this high-speed mental simulation, he deconstructs the entire routine, even analyzing how the heels would snap. Back in reality, the red shoes tap out their complex, cursed rhythm on the floor. The shoes finish their performance, issuing a silent challenge for our boy to replicate it or die. With his brain supercharged, he replays every single frame of the ghost's dance, burning it into his memory. He steels his resolve, knowing that everything now rides on him flawlessly executing this ridiculous performance. With a newfound swagger, he begins to move, ready to mirror the ghost's steps with absolute precision. He pulls off a series of flamboyant moves, internally thanking the heavens that only the shoes can see this. The embarrassment is almost as painful as death itself, as he worries his majestic image is being shattered forever. He strikes the final pose under an imaginary spotlight, having completed the entire dance without a single mistake. But the flawless performance comes at a cost, as blood starts streaming from our boy's eyes. The immense mental strain of perfectly mimicking the cursed dance leaves him battered and bleeding. The red dancing shoes aren't impressed in the slightest, telepathically telling him his skills are as awful as ever. A system notification pops up, congratulating him for earning the shoes' appreciation, but only for half an hour because his dancing was trash tier. The moment the ordeal is over, Yuanzi collapses to the ground, his body finally giving out. He fumbles for some recovery pills, his hands trembling from the sheer exhaustion of it all. Without a second thought, he downs the pills, desperate for any relief. A wave of calm washes over him as he gasps for air, just thankful that he actually survived the deadly dance-off. The system then reveals the item's tragic lore. The shoes belong to a beautiful princess who captivated the entire kingdom, but her wicked stepmother, consumed by envy, imprisoned her in a tower, forcing her to dance under the moonlight until she died. The system explains that these shoes inherited the princess's will, now wandering and dancing for all eternity. It then drops the item's insane usage modes. Either throw them to curse a target to death or wear them for a 5-minute God mode boost. The shoes even have a personality, threatening to stomp anyone to death who refuses to dance, which Yuanzi finds unique. Our boy is absolutely dumbfounded, realizing this is a divine artifact that literally ignores the rules of physics. He sighs, bummed that the shoe's appreciation for him only lasts for a measly half an hour. But then a wicked grin spreads across his face as he realizes 30 minutes is more than enough time for what he has planned. The scene shifts to the eerie, moonlit temple grounds he needs to explore. And just like that, Yuanzi is on the move, now wearing the cursed red dancing shoes himself. He confidently strides through the haunted courtyard, the heels clicking on the ancient stone. Peeking around a corner, he's ready to exploit his temporary truce with the powerful artifact. A skeletal ghost watches from the shadows, completely baffled that it can't seem to see our boy right in front of it. Yuanzi, meanwhile, is treating this like a video game, wondering if the monster will reset if he just leaves its territory. He holds his breath, trying to stay perfectly still and test his theory. But a sudden chill down his spine tells him his stealth plan has utterly failed. The skeletal corpse lunges out of the darkness, its claws aimed right for his throat. Before he can even react, the red dancing shoes flare to life with a mind of their own. They violently yank his feet out from under him, forcing him into a clumsy but effective dodge. The sharp heel stabs into the stone ground, stopping his uncontrolled tumble. Yuanzi is left on the floor, stunned that the shoes just saved his life without him doing a thing. The monster lets out a furious roar, its perfect ambush ruined by a pair of possessed heels. The skeletal corpse lets out another roar, its eyes glowing with green fury as it lunges forward again. But the red dancing shoes flare to life, digging into the stone with a mind of their own. They start yanking our boy around like a puppet on strings, forcing him into a wild, chaotic dance to evade the monster's claws. The creature is completely dumbfounded, its attacks whiffing as Yuanzi is flung around with impossible agility. Another swipe is dodged, as the shoes force him into a dangerously low split, nearly tearing him in half. He's less worried about the monster, and more concerned that these cursed shoes are about to permanently damage his family jewels. But as he's forced to his knees, a light bulb goes off in his head. Maybe he can influence their movements instead of just being a passenger. Suddenly, the shoes aren't just dodging, they launch him into the air, turning his frantic dance into a full-blown attack. The monster looks up just in time to see two glowing red heels descending right on top of its head. With a sickening crunch, the shoes slam down with incredible force, delivering a bone-shattering kick right to the creature's dome. But our boy isn't done yet. He channels his energy into a golden talisman, ready to end this for good. The skeletal creature lets out a furious roar, not realizing it's about to get hit with a holy sticker. With a grunt, Yuanzi shoves the talisman forward with everything he's got. It slaps right onto the monster's forehead, the holy energy shocking its corrupted system. The creature freezes instantly, completely paralyzed by the powerful seal. Yuanzi finally catches his breath, thinking the nightmare is finally over. He stands over the neutralized monster, a wave of relief washing over him. But his moment of peace is shattered as he realizes the shoes are acting up again. Suddenly, they yank him into the air, contorting his body into an impossible, butt-in-the-air pose. A mysterious voice echoes out, mockingly telling him it's glad he's finally settled down. Our boy wipes the sweat from his brow, admitting that without the shoes, fighting that zombie would have been a nightmare. With one threat down, he steals his gaze, knowing exactly who's next on his list. He turns to the creepy well and calls out the ghost, telling her it's her turn to face the music. But before that showdown, he has one last piece of business to take care of. Yuanzi approaches the paralyzed corpse, noticing a glint of gold clutched in its skeletal hand. He yanks out an ornate, golden dagger, sensing an immense power radiating from it. A system window reveals its name, the demon, subduing pestle, a weapon that purifies spirits at the cost of the user's own life force. He grips the dagger, a grim look on his face as he confirms it's a genuine, high-risk, high-reward item. A flashback reveals the grim fates of previous victims trampled by the shoes or slaughtered by the zombie they failed to kill. Yuanzi realizes he only has 5 minutes before the shoe's main vengeful spirit appears, giving him a tight window to exorcise the well ghost. Our boy calls out the well ghost, ready for a fight, but is met with absolute silence. He's dumbfounded. He clearly remembers a faceless woman crawling out of this very spot. He grips the demon-subduing pestle, a legendary weapon with no one to use it on. Realizing the ghost is a no-show, a new plan starts forming in his mind. With the 15-minute timer from the shoes nearly up, he decides to fall back to the main hall. The scene shifts back to the eerie, candlelit hall where this whole nightmare began. Suddenly, he collapses to the floor, the corpse poison from the zombie finally taking its toll. He can feel it spreading, his breathing becoming difficult as he realizes his time is running out. Hess cleared both courtyards and the well, yet the quest isn't over, meaning he's missed something crucial. Racking his brain, he desperately tries to figure out what hidden corner of this cursed place he has yet to uncover. Then it clicks. He's searched every courtyard and every corner of this godforsaken place, except for one. His eyes land on the massive, ominous statue in the main hall, the one place he hadn't touched. Of course, it was staring him in the face the whole time. The demon-subduing pestle wasn't for a ghost, it was a key for this very statue. With newfound purpose, our boy shoves the golden weapon right into the statue's waiting hand. It slides into place with a satisfying click, a perfect fit. Just as he leaps back, the cursed shoes force him into another frantic dance. Suddenly, a deafening crack echoes from the statue, the stone beginning to splinter. He watches with grim satisfaction, knowing he's finally cracked the code. The entire statue explodes into rubble, revealing a dark, hidden passage leading deeper into the abyss. With the path open, our boy smirks, finally feeling like he's in control of this nightmare. A voice from the cursed shoes themselves confirms his deduction was spot on. The dark passage beckons, a gaping maw in the temple's foundation. He immediately starts digging through the rubble, knowing he can't leave his only weapon behind. After a moment of frantic searching, he pulls the golden demon-subduing pestle from the debris. He grips the weapon, realizing that whatever destroyed this temple lies deep within this cavern. Inspecting the artifact, he figures its sun god power can only be unlocked with a blood sacrifice. A system window pops up, confirming its power but adding a terrifying note: it'll cost him his life. He's sweating bullets, but knows this death trap of a weapon is the only key to clearing this dungeon. Our boy sighs, realizing there's no other way out of this hellhole but to go all in. Without a second thought, he drives the golden pestle deep into his own side, making the ultimate sacrifice. His blood immediately awakens the artifact, causing it to erupt with a blinding, holy light. A wave of pure energy surges through him, overwhelming the pain with raw, untamed power. His very eyes transform, now blazing with the golden intensity of the sun god's might. He quickly realizes the pestle didn't banish the darkness, but instead granted him the ability to see right through it. Suddenly, all the negative effects of the dungeon, the dizziness, the chest pain completely vanish. The holy energy even purges the nasty corpse poison from his system. A life, for power trade he can live with. With this divine vision now his, he's finally ready to confront the monster that destroyed this temple. With his eyes now blazing gold, our boy can finally see through the dungeon's suffocating darkness. He pushes forward down a narrow passage, realizing these walls weren't natural, they were carved by human hands. At the end of the tunnel, he feels that the core mystery of the entire dungeon lies just beyond the light. Suddenly, a desperate cry for help echoes from the other side, a lure he can't ignore. The faint, pleading voice seems to be pulling him deeper into the glowing gateway. It's a doorway, promising either salvation or a one-way ticket to hell. A final, piercing scream erupts from the portal as it flares with blinding intensity. But what he sees on the other side is so horrifying that the divine power in his eyes instantly vanishes, leaving him sweating and speechless. Before him stands a monstrous, writhing tree made from the countless screaming skulls of this temple's victims. The air itself screams, filled with the endless pleas of souls trapped within this hellscape. One tormented face weeps tears of blood, noting that it's been an eternity since a living being has set foot here. But before it can say more, a powerful force begins to silence its cries. A strange energy ripples through the grotesque tree, and the screaming face is violently pulled back into the bark. The cacophony of voices dies down, revealing the horrifying, silent majesty of the soul tree. Its entire structure seems to be carved from pure, solidified despair. Our boy, drenched in a cold sweat, finally musters the courage to ask just what in the hell this thing is. A deep, ancient voice rumbles back, feigning surprise at his question. Suddenly, a massive face with glowing blue eyes forms on the trunk, calmly introducing itself as just a tree. Our boy cuts right to the chase, demanding to know if this tree was the one who wiped out the temple's disciples. The ancient face calmly denies the accusation, claiming it wasn't him. It reveals the true culprit was the so-called Three Paths Mountain Goddess. Yuanzi is completely thrown, the name sounding vaguely familiar but just out of reach. Then it clicks, he remembers the legend of a powerful night wanderer from the Ming dynasty. But he can't understand why a deity would slaughter her own followers. The tree explains that when the world's spiritual energy declined, she grew desperate for immortality and fell to the demonic path. She sealed herself inside a stone coffin, using the banyan tree as a soul trap to preserve her body and power forever. Turns out, night wanderers are born with the innate ability to devour souls to strengthen themselves, and she was just doing what came naturally. The tree then reveals its own origin. It's a sentient being born from the collective will of all the souls she trapped. For years, it has carried their resentment, waiting for someone strong enough to finally put the fallen goddess down for good. Our boy processes this insane lore dump, thinking it feels exactly like triggering a high-level NPC quest. With his golden eyes blazing, he weighs his options, trying to figure out the right move in this deadly game. The tree lays out the simple, brutal plan. Open the coffin and pierce the goddess's heart with the Vajra. It explains that the dagger contains half of his young soul, and stabbing her will seal her own soul within the weapon. Without her soul's protection, her body will instantly perish, and hell finally be free from this nightmare domain. But Yuanzi just stands there, unmoving, prompting the tree to ask why he's even hesitating. He isn't scared though. A flicker of doubt crosses his mind as he pieces things together. His golden eyes analyze the situation, realizing something about the tree's story just doesn't add up. Finally, he looks up and calls the tree's bluff, asking if it's really the temple's caretaker like it claims to be. The tree falls silent for a moment before admitting the truth. The real caretaker was the goddess's very first victim. The tree explains that the original caretaker became the goddess's puppet and urges our boy to open the coffin to see for himself. But Yuanzi, completely unfazed, just turns the question around, asking why the tree doesn't just open it for him. The entity gives the lamest excuse possible, claiming it can't because it's just a tree. With his golden eyes flaring, Yuanzi smirks, knowing he's caught the creature in a lie. He presses on, asking if it can't or simply doesn't dare, revealing his theory that the real caretaker is inside that coffin. He then deduces that the tree must be the caretaker's guardian, or perhaps his lingering soul. Our boy lays out all the facts, the conflicting timelines, the one-sided story, and the crucial note that warned him not to trust the master. Looking the tree dead in the eye, he declares that he finally understands the real reason the caretaker slaughtered the disciples. The tree tries to play innocent, complaining that Yuanzi is too suspicious, and that it never meant him any harm. But Yuanzi cuts right through the act, asking if it can't hurt him, or if it just doesn't want to. Yuanzi calls its bluff, guessing that its real killing method is strangulation, but one that's tied to mental attacks. He remembers the illusion it used, a mysterious woman calling his name to lure him closer. The tree's eye glares with fury, knowing its entire scheme has been unraveled. Our boy just smirks, telling the creature it slipped up and gave the whole game away. He recalls the Tai sect records, which warned that the tree was the real danger, and confirms the ghost was just a hallucination. Holding the Vajra, he reveals that its power makes him immune to illusions, which is the only reason the tree was pretending to be nice. With its illusions useless, the tree's backup plan emerges a physical ambush from the mirror ghost. But Yuanzi is one step ahead, unleashing a devastating punch crackling with golden, holy energy. The Vajra's power erupts from his fist, forming a massive wave of pure light. A torrent of sacred fire engulfs the area, aiming to cleanse this cursed place for good. The holy fire dies down, but our boy knows the real fight is just getting started. He pushes deeper into the cursed space, sensing the lingering evil with every step. Suddenly, the entire chamber begins to shake as the true master of this domain awakens. The skull tree is absolutely livid, screaming that since Yuanzi refused to come to it, then it will just have to kill him right here and now. With a furious roar, massive, sharpened roots erupt from the ground, aiming to skewer him. The deadly tendrils converge on him from all sides, a cage of pure malice. But Yuanzi just smirks, dodging the lethal assault with almost insulting ease. He vaults onto one of the massive roots, using the attack as his own personal ramp. In a flash, he pivots off the tendril, ready to deliver a devastating counterattack. With his Vajra glowing, Yuanzi effortlessly parries one of the tree's massive tendrils. The ground erupts as more sharpened roots try to skewer him from every angle. But our boy is just built different, dancing between the lethal spikes with those ridiculous heels. He twists and dodges through the storm of attacks, making the tree's rage look pathetic. With a cold, determined gaze, he locks onto his real target. He can see the reflection of the monstrous tree in his own eyes, a clear path to victory. Landing on one of the roots, he crouches low, gathering a blinding golden energy. His eyes flare with immense power as he prepares to unleash hell. The very air distorts as he channels his attack, ready to end this. Suddenly, the skull tree finds itself impaled, its own assault turned back on it in a flash. With a massive shockwave, Yuanzi's attack lands, shaking the very foundation of this cursed space. He lets out a furious roar, pouring every last drop of his energy into this final, decisive blow. The sacred Vajra dagger plunges deep into the heart of the demonic tree, its golden light searing the darkness. A blinding explosion of holy fire erupts, engulfing the monstrous entity completely. The tormented faces trapped within the tree let out horrifying screams as they're consumed by the purifying flames. Its cursed form begins to crack and shatter under the overwhelming assault. But our boy isn't letting up, his eyes blazing gold as he drives the holy weapon deeper still. He pushes with all his might, ensuring the sacred power reaches every corrupted fiber of its being. The tree's main face glows like a sun, overloaded and about to detonate from the inside out. In one final, agonizing shriek, the skull tree is utterly annihilated by the golden light. The immense power unleashed takes its toll, and our boy stumbles from the backlash. With a final surge of energy, the last remnants of the cursed entity are completely vaporized. A wave of pure, cleansing light washes over the entire area. Nothing remains of the demonic tree but scattered motes of dust. Yuanzi stands alone in the aftermath, the holy Vajra still clutched in his hand. Suddenly, a frantic system notification warns him to remove the red dancing shoes. The cursed heels finally detach from his feet, their power deactivated. He breathes a sigh of relief, realizing he got them off just before exceeding their usage limit. After catching his breath, he warily scans the now silent battlefield. He looks out over the desolate landscape, wondering if the nightmare is truly over. Just as Hez processing the victory, the system absolutely explodes with notifications, confirming Hez cleared the S-rank quest and even gets to keep the cursed shoes. The sheer exhaustion of the battle finally washes over him as he stands amidst the dissipating darkness. But the fatigue is quickly replaced by pure adrenaline as he throws his arms up, screaming that he actually cleared it. And just like that, our boy becomes a legend, conquering a spirit realm that had remained unbeaten for decades. With only a few minutes left, he sits down to meditate, trying to calm his racing heart before being ejected. Suddenly, a sinister third eye, glowing with dark energy, materializes on his forehead. A torrent of malevolent purple aura begins to pour out from him, swirling around his body like a vengeful storm. This strange power isn't just an aura, it begins to fuse directly into his being, merging with his soul. He clenches his eyes shut, enduring the painful and transformative process of this unholy fusion. When he finally opens them, his eyes are no longer human. They glow with a terrifying purple light, a smirk playing on his lips. The sinister purple energy fully settles into his eyes as the transformation completes. But instead of pain, his spirit feels absolutely incredible, like it's been reborn. His spiritual form is suddenly shocked, looking down in utter disbelief. Turns out, his soul has been completely ejected from his physical body, which now lies motionless on the ground. He's floating there, totally bewildered and questioning what is even happening to him. As his soul gets sucked back, he starts panicking, thinking he actually died and this was all some trash tier scam. With a jolt, he slams back into his body, gasping for air as if waking from a nightmare. Wiping the sweat from his brow, he breathes a sigh of relief, realizing it was just a false alarm. Needing to understand what that was all about, he immediately pulls up his character screen. And there it is, he's become a night wanderer, with brand new skills like Soul Devour and Solar Spirit. He also checks his inventory and realizes he's finally tamed the cursed red dancing shoes, and their cooldown is ready to go. Stretching, our boy notices his body feels fantastic. Even all the wounds he took earlier have completely vanished. With his newfound power and full health, his focus shifts back to the strange temple grounds. He stands before the remains of the Banyan spirit, the entity that was supposed to be the temple's caretaker. The system shows the quest is 100% complete, which makes him wonder, does that mean the stone coffin is actually empty? With a little time left on the clock, a dangerously curious glint appears in his eyes. He decides he's just too damn curious to leave it alone and pulls out the shoes as a safety measure. Without a second thought, he equips the cursed item, the bright red heels snapping onto his feet. Feeling oddly safer armed with a knife and a pair of deadly dancing shoes, he cautiously approaches the coffin. He wastes no time, plunging his weapon straight into the stone lid to pry it open and see what's inside. With his knife wedged in, our boy puts his back into it, trying to force the cursed coffin open. He digs his fingers under the lid and heaves with all his might, a loud grating sound echoing in the silence. The heavy stone lid finally slides open, revealing the dark abyss within. Stealing his nerves, he leans over to finally see what kind of monster is waiting for him. But his eyes go wide in utter disbelief at the sight that greets him. The coffin isn't empty at all. Inside lies a perfectly preserved, beautiful woman. Hez, completely dumbfounded, recognizing the crescent symbol on her forehead, it's the legendary Three Paths mountain goddess. Lying there peacefully, she looks more like a sleeping princess than a sealed evil. Our boy is left speechless, his mind racing to process this impossible discovery. He suddenly recalls the Banyan spirit's last words, wondering if that trash-tier monster was actually telling the truth. He tries to rationalize the situation, concluding that since the main quest is done, this must be a hidden one. But the reality of his recklessness sinks in, and he immediately regrets ever opening the coffin lid. His mind spirals into a full-blown panic attack as he's convinced he's just signed his own death warrant. After calming down, he realizes that if the goddess is real, it could trigger a dangerous chain of events. His genius plan is to just put the lid back on and pretend he never saw a thing. But just as Hez about to bail, he spots a faint golden glint coming from between the goddess' lips. His curiosity gets the better of him again as he leans in, wondering what that object could possibly be. Our boy is completely frozen, torn between his survival instinct and the allure of a new mystery. He swallows hard, making a decision that he'll probably regret in about 5 seconds. Throwing caution to the wind, he reaches out and touches her chin, trying to get a better look. He carefully opens her mouth, revealing the source of the golden light. Inside rests a brilliant, crystalline orb, practically humming with raw energy. A system notification pops up, identifying it as a spirit crystal, a priceless, purified treasure for night wanderers. Our boy is dumbfounded. This is a jackpot just waiting to be claimed. With his heart pounding, he reaches in and snatches the crystal for himself. The vengeful spirit's dark energy lashes out, but the crystal's holy light instantly purifies the corruption. He absorbs the power, gaining a huge EXP boost and feeling strong enough to crush his old bullies. The sudden surge of power is almost too much, leaving him coughing and trying to regain his composure. He quickly bows to the coffin, promising to burn offerings as thanks for the gift he just stole. Then, with the loot secured, he immediately tries to close the lid and pretend none of this ever happened. A return countdown pops up, and our boy lets out a sigh of relief, thinking he got away scotangent-free. But then a loud creak echoes through the tomb, and he whips around, wondering what that sound was. His gaze lands right back on the coffin, the source of the noise. Turns out, the lid isn't closing. It's slowly being pushed open from the inside. A pale, slender hand emerges from the darkness, pushing against the heavy lid. The hand grips the edge of the coffin, and you can tell this is no ordinary corpse. The figure inside slowly sits up, revealing a woman with long, flowing black hair. Yuanzi is absolutely dumbfounded, his heart practically stopping in his chest. It's the Lady of Sandow herself, awakened from her slumber, and she looks far from pleased. Her cold, piercing gaze locks on, and our boy knows he's in some serious trouble. Our boy's survival instincts scream run, and he tries to slowly back away from the terrifying sight, but it's useless. An immense pressure pins him down, and he realizes he's completely outmatched. The Lady of Sandow simply watches him with a cold, almost bored expression, as if he's nothing but an ant. Yuanzi's mind is just a loop of pure panic as he realizes she's not just awake, she's fully resurrecting before his eyes. Suddenly, a countdown appears in his vision, and her voice echoes in his mind, promising that she will come find him. The numbers tick down mercilessly, and our boy can only stare, completely clueless about what's about to happen. The countdown begins, sealing his fate with every passing second. As the timer hits 4, her chilling promise echoes again, a vow that she will hunt him down no matter where he goes. The final seconds vanish, and Yuanzi braces himself for whatever fresh hell is about to be unleashed. At 0, the world dissolves, and he finds himself floating in a strange void, only to look down and see the cursed red dancing shoes have latched onto his feet. Our boy's consciousness slowly returns as he drifts through the strange, blue abyss. With a jolt, his eyes snap open, pulling him back to reality. Turns out, he's not in some hellish dimension anymore, but back in his own sunlit room. Everything seems so peaceful and normal, making him wonder if the whole thing was just a trash-tier nightmare. He slowly sits up on the edge of his bed, his mind still trying to piece everything together. But just as he starts to relax, he feels something incredibly out of place on his feet. The Lady of Sandow's chilling promise echoes in his mind, confirming it was all too real. He glances down and his heart plummets. The cursed red dancing shoes are latched onto him. Pure panic sets in as he frantically tries to rip the demonic heels off his feet. He finally gets them off, panting in relief, realizing he almost stomped a hole right through the floor. Our boy breathes a sigh of relief, thankful the countdown ended and he's finally back in one piece. He decides right then and there that whatever happens in the spirit realm stays in the spirit realm. He steps out into the living room, only to be met by his aunt, who immediately scolds him for locking his door. Still reeling from his near-death experience, Yuanzi just lunges forward and tackles her in a massive hug, exclaiming how much he missed her. She's completely dumbfounded by his sudden outburst, as he just pinches her cheek, happy to see her looking so radiant. Meanwhile, back at the sleek, modern headquarters of his organization, the mood is far from cheerful. A very stressed-out Li Dongze asks his colleague, Guanya, if there's been any news from Yuanzi. She just sighs, annoyed, telling him that his phone is off and this is the third time he's asked her the same question. Li Dongze is practically sweating through his suit, muttering that they just have to wait a little longer. Guanya leans back in her chair, cool as ever, reminding him that like Schrodinger's cat, nothing is certain until the mission is officially over. Another colleague, Wang Tai, chimes in from his desk, pointing out that her analogy makes absolutely no sense. He then drops the cold, hard stats, explaining that without any backup, Yuanzi's chance of clearing the Yuling tunnel is practically zero. This dose of brutal honesty earns him a synchronized "shut up" from both Guanya and a very stressed-out Li Dongze. The poor guy is left completely dumbfounded, wondering what on earth he said wrong this time. His two superiors just facepalm in unison, thinking he's a socially inept fool for stating the grim reality out loud. Guanya can't help but drift off, thinking about our boy's charming side and how much more fun work would be with him around. But she snaps back to the present, sighing that it's a real shame he's so damn unlucky. She leans back, declaring that if there's still no contact by the end of the day, then all hope is officially lost. Li Dongze, still clinging to that last shred of hope, tells her to report to him the very moment there's any news. And right on cue, a ring cuts through the tense silence as her phone suddenly starts buzzing. Her phone buzzes to life, the sound echoing in the dead silent office. Both Guanya and Li Dongze freeze, their eyes locked on the vibrating device. She checks the screen and sees the most ridiculous caller ID imaginable. Primordial Heavenly Lord. Guanya is so shocked she practically screams the name out loud, completely dumbfounded. She turns to Li Dongze, utterly confused about who on earth would use such a name. But her boss is dead serious, immediately demanding she put the call on speakerphone. She quickly agrees, her thumb hovering over the screen, ready to answer. After picking up, she can't help but question the absurd name she just saw. A calm, familiar voice comes through the speaker, casually addressing her as Sister Guanya. It's our boy, coolly informing her that he's cleared the trial quest and made it out of the temple alive. The entire office is left completely speechless, unable to process the bombshell Yuanzi just dropped. Li Dongze is the first to snap out of it, absolutely losing his mind and screaming that a miracle has just happened. He's overcome with pure, unadulterated joy at the news. After a moment of wild celebration, he forces himself to regain his composure, muttering about staying elegant. And he has every right to be ecstatic. The Yuling tunnel was a notorious S-rank death trap that had claimed countless lives. But now, with a full walkthrough from our boy, the organization can finally start churning out new Night Wanderers. This single achievement is a strategic game-changer, guaranteed to catch the eye of the powerful Five Elements Alliance. Back on the phone, a stunned Guanya asks the only question that matters. How in the hell did he actually do it? Yuanzi, cool as a cucumber, just says it was easy. Basically a walk in the park for anyone with two working legs. Hearing this absolute flex, Li Dongze cuts in, praising his work and ordering him to report to headquarters immediately. With the orders given, the call ends, and our boy is officially on his way to headquarters. Back at the office, a dumbfounded Wang Tai tells his boss that he's recruited an absolute monster with extraordinary power. Li Dongze just smirks, soaking in the praise and the sheer magnitude of his find. He corrects his subordinate, saying our boy isn't a monster, he's a once-in-a-lifetime genius. Walking off, he cheekily plans to write a fake apology to his superior, Centurion Fu, for accidentally picking up such a prodigy. He sits down at his desk and begins composing the official report for the Centurion. In the message, he confirms that the new recruit has successfully cleared the trial quest by conquering the Yuling tunnel. With a decisive click, he sends the report, officially dropping the bombshell on the higher-ups. He leans back, expecting to savor the moment, but his phone immediately starts buzzing. And what do you know? It's Centurion Fu himself, calling just seconds after receiving the news. Li Dongze answers with a smug grin, simply confirming that yes, the report is 100% accurate. On the other end of the line, Centurion Fu's voice is ice cold, warning him that he'd better stand by his words. Li Dongze calmly explains that he knows how insane it sounds, but he literally just got off the phone with the kid himself. The Centurion demands a walkthrough as proof, but Li Dongzhe informs him that our boy is still compiling the data. Hearing this, Centurion Fu takes a moment, letting the sheer absurdity of the situation sink in. He admits he wasn't expecting much, but acknowledges that anyone capable of clearing the Yuling tunnel is an exceptional talent, crediting Li Dongs for the find. Reading the cheeky message about accidentally picking up a monster, the Centurion promises to report this to the Elder Council and give him major merit. He can't hide his glee, realizing this is a massive win for the White Tiger Guard. Li Dongzhe is dumbfounded. He was bracing for a scolding, not a commendation. Recovering his composure, he asks his superior if they should keep this new prodigy's identity under wraps for now. Centurion Fu shoots down the idea, explaining that it's too late. The news is already spreading among the captains. Besides, he reveals a long-standing agreement with the Tai sect gives them first dibs, leaving the guard with almost no night wanderers. Hearing this complex political mess, Li Dongzhe simply asks his superior for guidance on what to do next. With a smirk, Centurion Fu gives a simple, two-word solution: throw more funding at the problem. Li Dongzhe is dumbfounded, sarcastically asking if that's what his boss calls winning hearts with virtue. The Centurion admits that while virtue builds lasting loyalty, it's slow, and money gets results fast. He orders Li Dongs to get a full walkthrough from our boy immediately, especially about the Mountain God Temple, to repay a favor. Li Dongzhe confirms the order and promptly hangs up the phone. Left alone, he can't help but chuckle, thinking his boss truly is the money prince of the organization. Without wasting a second, he turns to his computer to message the Hanyang District group chat. Li Dongzhe logs into the Angyang District group chat only to see he's been mentioned. The other squad leaders are already roasting him, asking about the new night wanderer he recruited. One member chimes in that the kid is probably dead, since the Yuling tunnel is a known graveyard. Listening to all the trash talk, Li Dongzhe can't help but let out a smug little humph. He thinks to himself that his so-called comrades are about to be hit with some serious jealousy. So, he drops a red packet into the chat to get everyone's attention before delivering the bombshell. After a flurry of thanks, the chat erupts in chaos as they read his message. His recruit successfully cleared the tunnel. A user named Yuan Ting immediately tells him to stop joking around. Turns out, that's his boss, Centurion Fu, who is now sitting in his office demanding a serious answer. The Centurion's full name, Fu Qingyang, is revealed, showing just how high up the chain this news has gone. Centurion Fu confirms it's official. The Yuling tunnel now belongs to their alliance, a massive strategic win for training new night wanderers. The entire group chat is struck silent, completely floored by the news. Then, the chat explodes with excitement, as they realize this gives them leverage over the rival Tai sect for training slots. Meanwhile, a member of that very sect, Sun's subordinate, stares at his device in utter disbelief. He rants that it's impossible. If the mighty Tai sect couldn't clear it, how could some tier rookie succeed? The subordinate curses Elder Sun, blaming the old man's rash promise for losing such a once-in-a-generation talent. Back at the Five Elements Alliance headquarters, it's business as usual. A sharp knock on an office door signals a new arrival. In strolls our boy Yuanzi, cool as a cucumber, announcing he's here for his first day. Guanya looks him over with a smirk, realizing this little college boy is actually a stone-cold wolf cub. Guanya congratulates him on becoming a night wanderer, offering a very tempting reward. But our boy knows a trap when he sees one, politely turning down her expensive hug for another time. Internally, he's sweating, calling her a vile temptress, and reminding himself to stay pure. She just laughs, finding his serious act adorable, before telling him the squad leader is waiting. With a click of her heels, she leads him down the pristine corridor of the headquarters. She probes him, saying he must have gained a lot, but reminds him that hiding his power is a vital skill. Yuanzi just smirks to himself. He had no intention of revealing his secrets to her anyway. The door to the leader's office swings open, revealing the man in charge. Sitting there is the squad leader, Li Dongzhe, who calmly acknowledges their arrival. Yuanzi steps forward and offers a respectful greeting to his new boss. Li Dongzhe cuts right to the chase, asking Yuanzi if he knows what his biggest concern is at the moment. Our boy is completely dumbfounded, having no idea what this fancy boss is even talking about. Turns out, Li Dongzhe was worried that a valuable night wanderer like him might have been kidnapped on the way over. But Yuanzi, ever the professional, has only one thing on his mind and asks for a cola. Without missing a beat, Li Dongzhe simply orders Guanya to fetch him one. Guanya can't help but tease Yuanzi, noting how fast his status has shot up to get personal service from the boss. Meanwhile, Li Dongzhe pours himself a drink, musing to himself that this new generation is truly a force to be reckoned with. He praises Yuanzi for an excellent job on the mission, and requests a detailed report later, which our boy readily agrees to. But before all that, Li Dongzhe gets to the real point, asking if he found anything unusual at the mountain god temple. The mood shifts as Yuanzi prepares to debrief him, the weight of his recent discoveries hanging heavy in the air. Just then, a man named Wang Tai peeks in, asking if he can listen to the debriefing. Li Dongze casually agrees, telling him to come in and help Yuanzi draft the official report. An hour flies by as our boy recounts the entire harrowing ordeal. With Wang Tai typing it all up, Yuanzi finishes his story, saying that's pretty much how it all went down. But in his head, he's making a calculated omission, deciding to keep the exclusive character card and the red dancing shoes a secret for now. Li Dongze, ever the sharp one, notes that the demon-subduing Vajra he brought back must be a high-quality completion reward, not some trash-tier junk. He explains that while they treat the spirit realm like a game, its items are unique and far more real. By taking that weapon, he's permanently altered the dungeon. The kill the tree spirit objective might now be gone, lowering the difficulty for everyone else. Guanya jumps in to elaborate, explaining that spirit realm dungeons evolve dynamically based on player actions. She concludes that missions also vary by level, meaning walkthroughs are just a rough guide, the real experience is always unpredictable. But Wang Tai isn't buying it, pointing out that the dungeon's difficulty won't drop if the red dancing shoes are still inside. Our boy gets a little flustered, thinking to himself how blunt Wang Tai is. Wang Tai keeps typing, adding that the stats and rewards Yuanzi reported don't align with an S-rank difficulty at all. He looks up and cuts straight to the point, asking if Yuanzi is hiding something, which sends our boy into an internal panic. Playing it cool, Yuanzi quickly pivots, saying he was just about to mention a stone coffin he found near the tree spirit. This immediately grabs Li Dongze's attention, who leans in and asks what was inside the coffin. Wang Tai falls silent, sensing the story is about to take a massive turn. Yuanzi's face turns grim as he reveals it held the legendary Three Paths Empress, and when he opened it she woke up. Li Dongze is completely dumbfounded, his mind reeling from the impossible revelation that a sealed entity has awakened. The shock hits him so hard that he crushes his wine glass, the sound of shattering glass filling the tense silence. Li Dongze starts pacing, explaining that if the Empress truly awakened, there are only two possibilities. First, the Mountain God Temple dungeon itself could suddenly upgrade to a much higher tier. Or second, it might downgrade, but a brand new high-tier dungeon would appear in its place. Both scenarios are game-changers. The investigator, Guanya, encourages our boy to spill everything, reminding him that better intel means a bigger reward. But Yuanzi couldn't care less about money. He's just freaked out that a centuries dead lady smiled at him and feels she's coming for him. Wang Tai tries to reassure him, saying a being of that rank wouldn't even notice a low-level guy like him. Our boy just sweats bullets, sarcastically thanking him for making him feel so much better. Trying to lighten the mood, Guanya playfully asks the most important question. Was the Empress beautiful? With a cheeky grin, Yuanzi fires back that she was, in fact, prettier than her. Wang Tai twists the knife, adding that she also has far greater research value, leaving Guanya completely stunned. Guanya is absolutely fuming, wishing her two trash-tier colleagues would just drop dead. Meanwhile, in a quiet, traditional courtyard, some very important people are getting an update. A subordinate reports to Elder Sun that Centurion Fu's new recruit just cleared the Yuling tunnel. The Elder is completely dumbfounded, his eyes widening in disbelief. He frantically orders his man to keep this under wraps, worried about how this will tarnish his reputation. But his subordinate has some bad news. It's too late. Everyone already knows. Elder Sun looks like his soul just left his body, his reputation completely in the gutter. The subordinate tries to soften the blow, mentioning that at least Centurion Fu shared the dungeon guide. But that's not all. He has one more piece of critical, and far more concerning, information. Leaning in, he reveals the terrifying truth. The Ancient Day Wanderer has awakened. The news gets even worse for Elder Sun. The Crimson Sun Adjudicator has requested an emergency meeting. Meanwhile, back at the office, our boy Yuanzi is doing some research on his new class. He learns that Night Wanderers are assassins whose professional mark is a black crescent moon. A black crescent moon, huh? That immediately raises a red flag for him. He recalls the mark on his own forehead was a black full moon and decides it's best to keep that little detail to himself. Being different from the norm is a huge risk, and until he knows more, he's playing it close to the chest. The fact that he can't find anything about a black full moon online just confirms its top-tier, classified information. Deciding to switch topics, he turns to his colleague Guanya with a burning question. He asks if the Three Paths mountain goddess from the dungeon could be real, since the temple itself actually exists. Guanya just smirks, explaining that while the spirit realm mirrors real locations, the monsters are fake otherwise, humanity would be toast. Our boy lets out a huge sigh of relief, thinking the goddess was just a spirit realm illusion and hoping she stays put. Guanya isn't letting him off that easy, teasingly asking if he's scared she'll come find him after he called her a beauty. He immediately starts sweating, begging his senior not to hold a grudge over a simple compliment. Their banter is cut short when a sharp-dressed man, Lee Dongze, enters the room and calls for Guanya. He gets straight to the point with some grim news. A white Tiger Guard scout was found dead in a hotel. Guanya's playful demeanor vanishes in an instant as she acknowledges the grave mission. As they leave, Lee Dongze dismisses Yuanzi, telling him he's free to head back to school for the afternoon. But the news hits our boy hard. He's dumbfounded that a powerful spirit realm walker could actually be murdered. The scene shifts to the Icon Hotel, where the incident took place, setting a somber tone. Inside, a high-level meeting is underway, with key figures like Wang Tai and Elder Sun gathered to address the crisis. Elder Sun explains that with the Demon Lord's recent fall, the Tai sect's greatest threat is finally gone. However, he reveals their next mission is to find the Demon Lord's successor, identifiable by a black full moon mark and a special character card. Meanwhile, completely unaware he's the target of a massive manhunt, Yuanzi casually arrives at school. He pulls up to the building, having made the trip with ease. Our boy is feeling pretty good, thinking to himself that a 10-minute commute isn't bad at all. But as he's about to head in, he overhears some juicy gossip about the class belle, Shu Yingying. Two classmates are arguing. One claims she's waiting for her sugar daddy, while the other can't believe his goddess would do such a thing. His friends call out to him, reminding him they're in the same group for lab class this afternoon. Yuanzi agrees but walks away feeling a bit jaded, thinking what a decadent society it is, if even the class bell has fallen. The scene then cuts away from the mundane school life, shifting back to the ominous hotel, where the real danger lurks. The hotel room is a full-blown crime scene, taped off and crawling with investigators. Inside, the forensics team is hard at work, documenting the bloody mess left behind. A sharp-dressed investigator named Guanya reports to her superior, Lee Dongze, identifying the male victim as a rank 2 scout from the White Tiger Guards. She continues, stating the female victim was his mistress, and weirdly, there are no signs of a struggle. The strangest clue of all? 3 condoms are missing from the box, but only 2 were found used. Both victims died from a single, precise stab to the heart. But the missing condom suggests the woman was assaulted first. Lee Dongze grimly covers the body, processing the grim details of the case. He realizes this is a major incident. The killer bypassed all surveillance, meaning they're dealing with a high-level spirit realm walker. Guanya wonders what kind of monster would dare to kill an official member, suspecting it might be a walker from an evil path. Lee Dongze orders a full background check on the victim, knowing that if an evil pathwalker is involved, this is only the beginning of their problems. Guanya reveals the victim, Zhao Yingjun, had a powerful defensive artifact on him. She explains that killing a rank 2 scout with that kind of protection, without making a sound, is almost impossible. The only conclusion is that their killer is on a whole other level of power. Just then, a junior officer rushes in with the latest reports for Lee Dongze. Turns out, the victim was a serial cheater with numerous college mistresses, and the killer somehow knew his exact location every single time. Lee Dongze figures the best lead is probably one of the women, musing that they always know a man's secrets. But his expression hardens as he realizes the victim was tortured first, meaning the killer was after information. Guanya suggests a dark solution. Bring in a specialist who can devour the victim's spirit to access his memories. Lee Dongze lets out a heavy sigh, clearly frustrated by the suggestion. He explains their only guy for the job has been summoned to the capital by the Tai sect, leaving them completely stuck. Guanya points out the obvious. The killer striking while all the night wanderers are away is way too convenient. A glint in her eye shows she's just had a brilliant idea. She remembers that kid, Primordial, telling Lee Dongze they have their own night wanderer and don't need the Tai sect. Lee Dongze's face lights up with hope, agreeing to contact him immediately. Meanwhile, miles away, our boy Yuanzi is stuck in a painfully boring university lecture. He's completely zoned out, just scrolling through his phone to pass the time. He's trying to research spirit realm levels, but the info is pretty basic. When he tries to dig deeper, he hits a paywall access denied due to insufficient permissions. Just as he's grumbling, his phone buzzes to life with an incoming call, making him jump. He ducks under his desk to answer, whispering to Guanya that he's in the middle of class. Guanya cuts right to the chase, telling him to be at the school gate in 20 minutes for a pickup. A short while later, our boy ditches class and makes his way to the front of the university. He jogs over to a sleek car, surprised to see Guanya waiting for him in person. With a flick of her keys, she coolly tells him to get in. Once inside, Yuanzi is completely baffled, asking why she isn't investigating the scout's murder. She explains the plan. They need a night wanderer to devour the victim's spirit and retrieve his memories. Our boy admits that while devouring spirits is easy, he's never actually tried reading memories and can't guarantee it'll work. Guanya simply tells him he'll have to try, firing up the engine without another word. But just as they're about to pull away, his attention is snagged by someone walking past the car. He recognizes her as Shu Ying, a girl decked out from head to toe in flashy designer clothes. Their destination, as it turns out, is the city morgue. Inside, our boy stands over the scout's lifeless body, while Li Dongze observes from the side. Li Dongze gives a curt note, telling Yuanzi he can begin the procedure. With a flash of determination, Yuanzi focuses his energy, ready to get to work. He leans over the corpse, preparing to draw out the man's lingering spirit. A brilliant blue aura erupts from his body as his Night Wanderer powers activate. The spiritual energy coalesces, pulling the ethereal form of the scout right out of his body. He grasps the spirit, knowing that only the strongest obsessions and memories closest to death remain. But as he makes contact, the information he receives leaves him completely dumbfounded. Without a second thought, he begins to devour the soul to absorb every last secret. Inside the scout's mind, Yuanzi's will is absolute, warning the spirit that his patience is running thin and it better start talking. The memories begin to play, showing the scout stumbling upon a shocking scene. He had found a naked woman, leaving him completely stunned. The poor guy was just a kid, internally complaining that his squad leader never prepared him for something like this. But his flustered thoughts were cut short when a cold blade was pressed right against his face. The killer, a hulking brute, demanded to know about a holy grail and a roster. And just like that, Yuanzi had his man. Yuanzi experiences the scout's final moments of terror, hearing the boy's desperate pleas for his life as if they were his own. But the killer was unmoved, coldly telling the scout he had wasted his only chance. With a look of pure, grim finality, the killer sealed the scout's fate. Having seen everything, Yuanzi finishes absorbing the spirit, the blue energy swirling back into him as he now holds the truth of the murder. Our boy looks shaken, admitting to his team that he saw the killer's face, and that the whole memory reading process was terrifying. Guanya, ever the character, offers him a big hug for his troubles, but Li Dongze immediately tells her to get serious. Getting straight to business, Li Dongze asks Yuanzi if the killer had any distinct features they could use. Yuanzi perfectly recalls the man's face, describing a burly brute in his 30s with a nasty scar on his left cheek. Li Dongze is pleased, noting that such a clear description means their target will be easy to identify. Guanya's expression turns grim as she asks the most important question. Was the female victim assaulted? The horrific image flashes in Yuanzi's mind again as he quietly confirms her worst fears. He then adds a crucial piece of intel, telling his squad leader that he believes the killer is mentally unstable. Li Dongze's face hardens with disgust, muttering that the bastard deserves a one-way ticket to hell. Yuanzi can only agree, wondering aloud how anyone capable of such cruelty could possibly be sane. Li Dongze quizzes our boy, asking if he still remembers how the all-important moral value penalty system works. He explains that while killing the mistress to silence her was a rational, albeit evil, act, assaulting her first was a huge waste of moral value. The light bulb goes off for Yuanzi as he finally understands the implication. Turns out, spirit realm walkers who commit crimes lose moral points, and the killer's actions point to one of two things. He's either insanely powerful or just plain insane. Guanya chimes in, stating that any walker with an unstable mind is a ticking time bomb that must be eliminated on sight. She warns that the spirit realm is a meat grinder, and even survivors are left with deep psychological scars that can lead to a total breakdown. Looking Yuanzi dead in the eye, she tells him that as a night wanderer, he needs to report any mental slips immediately for counseling. Our boy asks the obvious question. Did they find any DNA, or did the killer manage to wipe the scene clean? He sighs in frustration, realizing if they had even a single trace, the red dancing shoes could have sniffed the bastard out. Seeing the investigation at a dead end, Li Dongze turns back to Yuanzi, asking if he saw anything else in the victim's memory. Yuanzi finally drops the bombshell. The killer was interrogating the scout about a holy grail and a roster. The revelation hits Li Dongze and Guanya like a ton of bricks, leaving them completely dumbfounded. Li Dongze immediately asks what they are, but Yuanzi confirms the victim had no clue either. The squad leader's face darkens. He realizes their murdered scout was hiding some serious secrets from them. Still, he gives our boy a pat on the back for uncovering the lead and assigns him to create a facial composite with Guanya. As they head out, Li Dongze adds one last order. Get Yuanzi fitted for a proper suit for his on-duty work from now on. Guanya relays the message, and Yuanzi just shrugs it off, figuring it's a typical corporate dress code. But she clarifies it's not a company rule, just their squad leader's personal request because he finds casual clothes inelegant. Yuanzi is baffled, but Guanya seems to be coming around to the idea, musing that a man should indeed live with elegance. The two walk off, our boy still trying to process the strange new workplace policy as they head to their next task. Later, our boy checks his stats, feeling a warm current surge through him as he sees his experience jump by 2% from devouring the spirit. He excitedly tells Guanya, who notes that while night wanderers grow by consuming spirits, the ones from the Taiyi sect always seem weirdly reluctant to do it. Yuanzi asks why, but she just plays dumb, claiming she's just a helpless little scout who wouldn't know such things. Our boy isn't buying it for a second. He knows a level 2 scout could crush him, and their solo combat skills become terrifying after their level 4 class change. He playfully calls her out, asking if she's really as weak as she claims to be. Guanya's expression immediately shifts, a dangerous glint in her eyes as she leans in close. She menacingly offers to give him a little practice session to prove just how strong she really is. Yuanzi instantly panics and waves her off, stammering that he's still just a kid and wants no part of her training. After their little spat, they get down to business, creating a facial composite of the killer from the scout's memories. Yuanzi studies the finished sketch with Wang Tai, confirming that it's a solid 70 to 80% match to the man he saw. Guanya confirms the killer's identity. Wu Xiangrong, an ex-con who went off the grid after a prison sentence for assault. The squad leader, Li Dongze, boasts they can track the guy down in 2 hours, leaving our boy completely stunned. He tells Yuanzi to have a little more faith in the combined power of the officials and the scouts. Li Dongze then dismisses him for the day, saying a night wanderer lacks the mental grit for the next phase. Our boy is absolutely thrilled, thinking this was the easiest, best-paying job he's ever had. After he leaves, Guanya worries the killer fled, but Li Dongze is sure he's still in the city, hunting for a holy grail and a roster. She's completely in the dark, asking what those 2 items could possibly be. Li Dongze grimly states that's a question they can only answer after they've captured the man himself. The scene then cuts to Yuanzi's apartment, the sun setting on a long and dangerous day. It seems our boy has returned home, ready to put the whole bloody affair behind him for the night. During dinner, his aunt suddenly asks her mother if the hospital where she works is haunted. Both Yuanzi and his guardian are taken aback by the sudden, chilling question. His guardian dismisses it as nonsense and demands she tell them what's really going on. The aunt explains that a coworker on the night shift heard a child's laughter coming from an empty office. She continues the spooky tale, saying the coworker then saw a baby clinging to her reflection in a mirror, a detail that immediately grabs Yuanzi's attention. Apparently, it's a recurring event, and everyone believes it's the vengeful spirit of an aborted child roaming the halls. Now genuinely creeped out, the guardian suggests Yuanzi should accompany his aunt on her night shifts for protection. But our boy isn't scared in the slightest. He just smirks, realizing hospitals are the perfect hunting grounds to grind some serious experience. The scene shifts, showing the imposing hospital building at night. Yuanzi stands before it, thinking this is the perfect chance to level up his spirit devour skill and get that crucial power boost he needs. He muses that hospitals are prime real estate for leveling up, unlike crematoriums which are too far out of the way. But a thought nags at him. If it's such an easy XP farm, why does the powerful Taiyi sect avoid it? Hopping on public transport, he finds a seat and notes that the forums are surprisingly quiet about this. He pulls out his phone to browse while heading to his destination, looking completely calm and collected. Suddenly, a notification pings his phone a trending alert about a wanted level 3 bewitching demon. The alert identifies the target as a dangerous demon named Wu Xiangrong. Turns out this demon murdered a scout and escaped a siege, and he's now on the verge of losing control. The comments are pure chaos, with people panicking that the authorities have let a monster loose on the streets. Our boy reads the report and scoffs, thinking the squad leader's team had great efficiency but trash-tier execution. Then it hits him the demon must have left blood at the scene, and he realizes he can use the red dancing shoes to track him down. But on second thought, he decides it's better not to expose the existence of his powerful shoes. He's just a level 1 night wanderer. Revealing a rule-type item would attract a ton of unwanted, high-level attention. With his priorities straight, he focuses on the most important thing, getting stronger. Just then, his senses pick up a wandering spirit nearby. Looks like it's time to farm some experience points. Turns out, the spirit is aimlessly haunting a hospital corridor, totally invisible to the passing doctor and nurse. Our boy can practically feel the regret radiating from the ghost, a soul that can't even rest in peace. Seeing an easy meal, he decides to do the spirit a favor and absorb its resentful energy. The ghost is helplessly pulled towards him, its essence being drawn out in a stream of blue light. As he purifies the spirit's energy, his own power begins to surge. A brief flash of the ghost's final memories reveals a sickly old man, coughing his life away in deep regret. The old man's last moments flash before him, a life ending with the struggle for a single breath. He was hooked up to machines, a prisoner in his own failing body. With his dying breath, the man's only thought was a tearful promise that he'd never smoke again. This intense regret floods into our boy, who unconsciously screams the ghost's final wish to the heavens. As the spiritual energy settles, a cold determination fills his eyes. He snaps back to reality, only to find the hospital staff staring at him like he's a complete lunatic. Thinking fast, he plays it off with an awkward laugh, muttering about how smoking is bad for your lungs. The moment they're gone, he pulls up his system to see what that little meal earned him. His experience bar ticks up, landing at a measly 44.5%. He realizes this ordinary spirit was trash tier, giving only 0.5 EXP, meaning he'll have to grind countless weak ghosts to level up. But then our boy realizes this entire hospital is an all-you-can-eat buffet of spirits. The hallways are practically crawling with lost souls, just waiting to be harvested. He grins, thinking the more ghosts there are, the faster he can level up. With a hunter's gaze, he scans the crowd for his next meal. He locks onto one particular spirit, thinking this guy looks like a pretty tasty target. Without a second thought, he begins inhaling the spirit's energy. The blue essence flows into him, and suddenly he's hit with the ghost's final, chilling memories. He sees a friend helping the victim, sarcastically noting how drunk he is and can't even stand. The memory darkens as the killer wonders aloud if he managed to drink himself to death. The last thing the spirit saw was his murderer putting his shoes on, staging the scene with a twisted sense of care. The memory continues, showing the killer gently cradling his victim's head. But then he starts fumbling with the guy's pants, leaving the victim completely bewildered. Things escalate as the killer lifts his shirt to reveal his abs, and the victim's mind just short-circuits. The killer leans in close, calling him honey, and for some reason, the victim is blushing like crazy. Yuanzi, watching this psychic playback, is utterly dumbfounded, wondering what kind of twisted scene he's witnessing. The memory flashes to the killer, squeezing a bottle of lotion into his hand. He then whispers that it's time to get some oil on him, and the whole situation just gets 10 times weirder. This is the last straw for our boy, who mentally screams in absolute terror from the secondhand trauma. Snapping back to reality, Yuanzi is left shivering in the waiting room, much to the confusion of the elderly folks sitting beside him. An old lady snaps him out of it, asking if our boy is feeling all right. Her husband chimes in, wondering if he's checked in yet or what's making him feel so unwell. Yuanzi bolts up, claiming he's just going to the restroom while internally screaming that men are just too damn scary. He makes a desperate escape to the one place he can be alone with his secondhand trauma. Inside, he immediately starts washing his hands, trying to scrub away the filth of that ghost's memory. But the psychological damage is done, and he leans over the sink, utterly exhausted. He looks in the mirror and is suddenly hit with the original owner's memories, who apparently wasn't a saint either. This whole experience makes him realize that devouring spirits for power is a shady path that can lead to straight-up schizophrenia. Needing something to ground him, he decides to check his stats and see what he gained from that nightmare. He checks his stats and sees the ghost gave him a solid 46% experience boost. While his night roam skill is still stuck at 9 seconds, his physical strength, vitality, and recovery have all gotten a noticeable buff. Our boy breathes a sigh of relief. The mental trauma was intense, but the power-up was definitely worth it. Deciding he's had enough of this creepy hospital, he uses his work injury as an excuse to finally head home. Meanwhile, at the headquarters of what looks like a serious organization, a tense meeting is underway. A stern-looking leader, Centurion Fu, recounts how a massive operation failed, and the bewitching demon they were hunting managed to escape. He glares at the assembled team leaders from various factions, telling them he's deeply disappointed in their trash-tier performance. A beefy guy from the Scarlet Flame Gang tries to defend his team, claiming their target was corrupted by an evil power and went berserk. But Centurion Fu cuts him off cold, stating that failure is failure, and any excuse is just a coward's way of avoiding reality. The muscle-bound agent can only grit his teeth and accept the brutal dressing down. Centurion Fu's gaze is like ice, and it's clear he's just getting started. Another agent chimes in, explaining that their failure has unleashed a berserk demon on the city, guaranteeing mass casualties. The other team leaders, including the stone-faced Guanya and Li Dongze, can only listen in grim silence. Fu drops the hammer. Every Spirit Realm squad has 3 days to hunt down the target, Wu Xiangrong, or they're all getting shipped back to training camp. But then, he does something unexpected, admitting that he also shares the blame for this mess. His mistake, he says, was overestimating their trash-tier abilities, so he'll personally lead the hunt, and gives them a critical lead on the target's next move. With time running out, he dismisses the entire room but tells Guanya to stay behind. He turns to her, noticing the bandage on her arm, and asks if Li Dongze's report about her being injured is true. Guanya just scoffs, telling him to spit it out since she's got a city to save. Turns out, this isn't about work at all. Fu reveals her aunt called, demanding she come home next month to meet some fiancé she's arranged. She's having none of it, firing back that she already made it clear she won't be a sacrificial pawn for the family's ambitions. With a smirk, she tells him all the men in his family are cut from the same cloth and that he should just take over and put the old geezers out to pasture already. Fu hits back, telling her if she wants to escape her fate, she needs to stop slacking and prove herself, because the elders only respect raw power. He then lays out a deal. He'll transfer her to a top-tier team to polish her record, giving him the ammo he needs to shut her aunt down for good. Guanya admits her current team is unreliable, but she's got her eye on an interesting new recruit and wants to see how he develops. But Fu isn't playing games, warning her that if this mission goes south, the failure will permanently block her from ever reaching the Elder Council. She just gives him a sly wink over her shoulder, calling him cousin as she walks out, completely unfazed by his threats. Back on campus, Yuanzi walks with his classmates as they discuss their schedules, but our boy is sarcastically thinking about his own colorful day of networking. One of his friends brings up some juicy gossip, mentioning that security officers came looking for Xu Yingying yesterday, leaving her in tears. Turns out, they were questioning her about that rich sponsor of hers who got into some serious trouble. Yuanzi just scoffs internally, figuring if her sugar daddy is gone, she can just find another one, no big deal. He continues walking down the hall, completely unbothered by her situation, until a glimpse out the window makes him pause. Our boy stops dead in his tracks, his casual stroll coming to an abrupt halt. Through the glass, he sees Xu Yingying, and she's definitely not alone. The man with her is none other than Wu Xiangrong, a guy who looks like he eats nails for breakfast. A closer look reveals Xu Yingying is sweating and looks absolutely terrified to be in his presence. Yuanzi is completely dumbfounded, a cold sweat running down his own face as he realizes this is way more serious than some rich guy skipping town. He connects the dots, realizing her sugar daddy must have been Zhao Yunjun, the very reason security was after her. A cold sweat drips down his face as he remembers Wu Xiangrong's reputation for cruelty. If he doesn't intervene, she's dead for sure. Watching the brute drag her towards the parking garage, Yuanzi decides that no matter how materialistic she is, she doesn't deserve to die. Wasting no time, he whips out his phone to fire off a quick message to his squad about the hostage situation. He hits send, alerting his team that he's going in first to tail the kidnapper. With the warning sent, our boy immediately bolts out of the building in hot pursuit. But as he races down the stairs, his phone buzzes with an urgent reply. It's a message from his team, warning the primordial heavenly lord not to do anything rash. The warning comes too late, however, as a powerful blue aura begins to flare up around him. His eyes glow with raw energy. There's no way he's backing down now. Yuanzi activates his night roam skill, figuring that with his speed, the risk is definitely worth taking. He blazes into the parking garage, knowing a lunatic like this needs to be put down fast. A trail of blue energy snakes through the concrete labyrinth as he closes in on his targets. Peeking from behind a pillar, our boy finds the kidnapper and his victim. He overhears Xu Yingying pleading that she was only with the guy for his money. But Wu Xiangrong couldn't care less, pressing a blade to her throat and demanding to know about a holy grail or a roster. Terrified, she just cries, swearing she knows nothing about any of it. The brute sighs, completely out of patience with her sobbing denials. His face twists into a mask of pure rage. He's done giving her chances. With a furious roar, he swings his hand to deliver a devastating blow. But instead of a slap, Wu Xiangrong goes for the throat, lifting Xu Yingying off her feet as she pleads for her life. He just smirks with a dead-eyed stare, muttering that she's completely and utterly useless to him. In his twisted logic, useless people don't deserve to live. Just as his knife is about to plunge into her, a flicker of blue energy stops the blade cold. The sudden interference sends a jolt through Wu Xiangrong's senses, putting him on high alert. He whips around, furiously demanding to know who's there. Done with the interrogation, he casually flings Xu Yingying aside like a rag doll. She crashes hard onto the parking garage floor, forgotten in an instant. Wu Xiangrong now focuses on the real threat, his own violent purple aura flaring as he dares the intruder to show themselves. A blade of pure, crackling purple energy materializes in his hand, ready to meet this new challenger. A twisted grin spreads across Wu Xiangrong's face as he announces he's pinpointed the intruder's location. Without wasting a single second, he launches himself forward like a cannonball wreathed in violent purple energy. And there he is, our boy Yuanzi, forced to intercept the psycho's blitz attack in a blinding clash of power. But the sheer force of the blow is overwhelming, sending Yuanzi skidding helplessly across the concrete. Hess completely stunned. This guy's raw strength is on a whole other level. Wu Xiangrong pauses, a flicker of recognition in his eyes, as he identifies Yuanzi's energy as that of a night wanderer. That brief curiosity vanishes as he raises his blade, roaring that he's about to end this. Pinned down and out of options, Yuanzi activates his ultimate escape skill, Night Roam. The killer's blade smashes into the ground where Yuanzi lay, but our boy has already vanished into thin air. Left standing in the dust, Wu Xiangrong furiously screams for the cowardly turtle to come out and face him. The killer's blade carves a trench in the concrete, missing our boy by a hair's breadth. Reappearing nearby, Yuanzi clutches his arm in agony, dumbfounded that a mental class user hits like a freight train. Wu Xiangrong lands on a car, his senses scanning the area for any trace of his target. He scoffs, realizing he's dealing with a trash-tier level 1 night wanderer who had the gall to ambush him. The psycho smirks, knowing that a level 1 invisibility skill can't last more than 20 seconds. Hiding behind a car, Yuanzi panics internally. His skill is even weaker and will only last 10 seconds at most. Turns out, Wu Xiangrong's bewitching demon class is a transcendent tier nightmare that grows stronger with every kill. Its core ability, Bewitch, combines devastating mental control with brutal melee power, making him virtually unstoppable. As Yuanzi sweats bullets, he realizes his precious 10 seconds are finally up. With his cover blown, our boy reappears, bracing himself for whatever comes next. The moment he appears, Wu Xiangrong blitzes past him in a flash, too fast for our boy to even react. Yuanzi desperately ducks behind another car, his heart pounding in his chest. The psycho unleashes a devastating punch into the empty air, a clear message of what's to come. Wu Xiangrong just smirks, casually noting that Yuanzi looks like a student from the local university. He then lays out his twisted game plan. Now that he knows where to look, he'll hunt him down and slaughter his entire family. With the psycho's threats echoing in his ears, Yuanzi begins a silent countdown, preparing his next move. He slips back into his semi-invisible night roam state, realizing he's dealing with an absolute madman. Our boy understands that this guy's instincts are terrifying. He can't risk an attack unless it's a one-shot kill. Worse, his stamina is shot, leaving him with only 2 more uses of his skill before he's a sitting duck. He quickly recalls the bewitching demon's abilities, guessing he's already been marked, but hoping Night Roam can still block the hunter's senses. Yuanzi knows the real threat isn't just this psycho's raw power, but that terrifying bewitch skill. Stuck in the middle of the day, our boy wishes for the cover of night to give him a real edge, but he's got an ace up his sleeve, deciding it's time for the red dancing shoes to make their debut. Just then, Wu Xiangrong leaps onto a car with inhuman speed, dodging a hidden attack meant to pin him down. The psycho just smirks, telling Yuanzi he has 3 seconds left before he's dead meat. His dark aura flares to life as he prepares to lunge forward for the killing blow. But something catches his eye, and his predatory gaze shifts in utter confusion. Floating silently behind him is a pair of glowing, blood-red high heels. Hez completely dumbfounded, realizing Hez looking at some kind of supernatural item. A strange prompt then appears, asking if he'd like to dance, telling him to just stomp his feet to accept. Wu Xiangrong just scoffs, calling it a trash-tier supernatural item and explaining that ghosts fear strong yang energy. He bites his tongue, preparing to use the classic ghost-busting trick. With a smug grin, he claims a single drop of his tongue-tip blood is more than enough to suppress this pathetic spirit. He spits the blood, but the red aura of the shoes just flares up, completely unaffected. The psycho smirks, thinking he's already won the fight. Suddenly, the red dancing shoes materialize and dive straight at him with blinding speed. He swings his blade to intercept, but he's left dumbfounded as they phase right through his attack. Before he can even process what happened, one of the heels brutally impales him straight through the chest. His eyes go wide with shock and pain, unable to believe he was just taken down by a pair of shoes. The impact sends him flying backward, slamming him hard onto the pavement. Reeling back, Wu Xiangrong is dumbfounded, recognizing the purple aura as void, an item from an overseas profession he never expected a level 1 scrub to have. The red dancing shoes don't give him a second to think, rocketing forward for another relentless assault. He grits his teeth, bringing his blade up in a desperate attempt to fend off the bizarre, high-speed projectiles. His blade clashes with one shoe in a shower of sparks, a testament to the sheer force behind the attack. But it's a 2-on-1 fight, and while he blocks the first, the second shoe continues its trajectory unimpeded. The heel smashes directly into his face with a sickening crunch, a brutal follow-up to the chest wound. He swings his blade wildly, trying to create some space, but the shoes are already spinning for another devastating strike. Turns out, our boy Yuanzi is watching this whole beatdown, thinking to himself how ridiculously strong his useless item is. He knows these are rule-type items, basically cheat codes that can't be destroyed or interrupted. The only way to survive is to dance, but Yuanzi smirks, knowing hell just tripped the guy up, and then it's game over. Yuanzi watches, impressed that this muscle-bound demon is somehow durable enough to withstand the shoe's relentless stomping. He predicts that once the guy realizes he's just a punching bag, his first instinct will be to bolt. Our boy knows he has to strike before that happens. He doesn't need a kill, just to keep this murderer pinned down. The shoes, however, have other plans, smashing into the guy's face with another brutal kick. Xiangrong is absolutely seething, realizing he's trapped in a one-sided beatdown he can't escape. Seeing the guy distracted and enraged, Yuanzi spots his opening. This is his chance. He moves like a phantom, a blur of motion as he lunges forward to capitalize on the moment. Xiangrong is completely blindsided as a spectral form of Yuanzi appears right in front of him. With a golden talisman in hand, Yuanzi thrusts it forward, confident he's landed a decisive blow. But his attack slams into a shimmering barrier, stopping it dead in its tracks, leaving Xiangrong utterly dumbfounded. A smug grin spreads across Xiangrong's face. This was all part of his plan. He mocks our boy, calling him a night wanderer and saying he let his guard down far too easily. Turns out, he was holding a defensive artifact the whole time, a cracked green medallion. Yuanzi's talisman grinds against the shield, unable to break through the unexpected defense. Even the red dancing shoes slam into the barrier, their powerful kick completely nullified. The medallion glows, absorbing the full force of the spiritual attack without a problem. The shoes keep hammering away from behind, but the shield is holding firm against the onslaught. With a surge of power, the light from the medallion intensifies, ready to retaliate. Xiangrong shatters the talisman's energy, boasting that they can't break his defense. Just as his attack fails, Yuanzi's spectral form flickers. His night roam time is up. With our boy's physical body now exposed, Xiangrong grins, boasting that he's finally shown himself. He immediately unleashes a mental attack, a bewitching spell designed to dominate Yuanzi's mind. A voice echoes in Yuanzi's head, commanding him to drop his weapon and surrender completely. Xiangrong laughs, revealing his master plan was never just about defense. He mocks Yuanzi's impatience, explaining he was just waiting for our boy to make the first move. Turns out, he faked weakness because his defensive item was already damaged and wouldn't have lasted long against the shoes. But just as the spell seems to take hold, Yuanzi's eyes flash with purple light, cutting through the illusion. In a shocking twist, the red dancing shoes suddenly materialize and latch onto Yuanzi's own feet. Xiangrong is left completely dumbfounded as a wave of spiritual energy blasts him back. Our boy is horrified as his body begins to move on its own, caught in the very curse he was trying to control. Our boy grits his teeth, desperately fighting for control as the curse tries to take over his mind. Xiangrong is blown away, absolutely stunned that a mere level 1 night wanderer could shatter his bewitchment. The raw spiritual energy slams into him, tearing through his body as he screams in agony. Blood erupts from his chest as the full force of the backlash hits him head-on. He's sent flying, his face a mask of pure pain from the unexpected counter. But even while getting wrecked, his spirit is unbreakable. He screams internally that he will not lose this fight. Staggering to his feet, Xiangrong clutches his wounded chest, refusing to go down. He then notices Yuanzi is also in agony, seemingly being choked by the same purple energy. A wicked grin spreads across his face as he realizes his opponent is completely defenseless. Seizing the opportunity, he lunges forward and smashes a brutal punch right into Yuanzi's gut. The blow sends our boy Yuanzi flying across the parking garage like a rag doll. But just as he's about to crash, a pair of sinister red heels materializes beneath him. With a cold glare, Yuanzi activates his skill, Night Roam, completely flipping the script. Xiangrong is dumbfounded, still clutching his chest and wondering how his victim is still moving. He starts sweating bullets, realizing the tide of the battle has just turned against him. His twisted mind races. He just needs to kill the girl on the floor to drink her blood and regenerate. Refusing to accept defeat, he screams with everything he has that he will not lose this fight. But it's too late. A powerful force erupts and blasts him backward. Turns out, the red dancing shoes are glowing with a terrifying power of their own. They lock onto their new target, shooting straight for Xiangrong to force him into a dance of death. Xiangrong pushes through the pain, his eyes burning with a desperate, murderous intent. But the red dancing shoes aren't having it, smacking him right across the face with brutal force. He stumbles back, but his twisted mind is still locked on one thing: stabbing the girl to save himself. Bleeding and cornered, he lets out a final roar of defiance, refusing to go down without a fight. With his last ounce of strength, he lunges forward, thrusting a makeshift blade with everything he has. The weapon flies straight towards the unconscious Xu Yingying, just inches from its target. But in a flash of golden light, our boy Yuanzi appears, blocking the killing blow at the last second. He looks down at the shocked villain and calmly tells him that the fight is over. He's lost. Wu Xiangrong is completely dumbfounded, staring up in horror as the cursed shoes prepare for the final act. In a sickening crunch, the heels plunge directly through his chest, ending the monster's rampage for good. Wu Xiangrong's body twitches one last time, before finally going still on the cold concrete. With the threat gone, Yuanzi collapses in exhaustion, admitting that taking down the psycho was a serious drain. Our boy reveals it was all a calculated plan, using a blood sacrifice and the Red Shoe's second form to counter every move. He smirks to himself, thinking if he couldn't win with that much prep, he might as well quit being a spirit walker. A system notification pops up, rewarding him with points and unlocking a reputation system, leaving him totally confused. He stands over the headless corpse, the red dancing shoes having vanished from the body. But as he walks away, the cursed shoes suddenly reappear and latch onto his own feet. Annoyed and drained, he slumps down, realizing he's stuck with this clingy cursed item for now. Figuring he deserves some compensation, he decides to loot the body, grabbing the guy's phone and wallet. He's absolutely dumbfounded to find the wanted criminal was carrying a measly 1,500 yuan. What a trash-tier reward. He decides the dead man's blade is now officially confiscated as part of his compensation. Turns out it's a cursed weapon called the Bloodthirst Blade that feeds on blood to get stronger. Our boy is just glad he was keeping an eye on Shu Yingying, realizing this thing requires a blood sacrifice to use. He's already feeling anemic from his other gear, and groans at the thought of another blood-sucking item in his arsenal. Just then, the clingy red dancing shoes suddenly materialize in front of him, tapping impatiently. A system notification explains the catch. He must dance with them after each use, or they'll hunt him down instead. He's totally annoyed by this rip-off deal but puts on a smirk and agrees to the dance. Meanwhile, outside the parking garage, a crowd has gathered, held back by police tape as the situation unfolds. Back inside, two official-looking investigators arrive to find Yuanzi casually standing over the headless corpse. The investigators are completely dumbfounded, unable to believe a level 1 night wanderer actually killed a level 3 demon. Li Dongze praises our boy's work and asks him to read the corpse's memory, but Guanya immediately shuts him down. She argues that the demon's spirit is corrupted with negative energy that a low-level wanderer can't handle, yet Yuanzi insists he can do it. Guanya is immediately suspicious. She knows he understands the risks, so his eagerness means he's definitely hiding something. But Li Dongze presses on, saying the intel is too valuable to wait and he'll find a way to protect Yuanzi from the backlash. Yuanzi has no choice but to agree, realizing if anyone else reads that memory, his secret red dancing shoes will be exposed for all to see. He starts sweating, noticing that the sharp-eyed Guanya is definitely onto him and his little secret. Li Dongze gives his orders, telling the team to transport the body while the rest assist the local officers. He then pairs Yuanzi with Guanya, telling them to head back to headquarters together to file a report. But as they walk off, Guanya leans in, revealing she knows he's hiding something, and offers to help him erase the surveillance footage. Driving away in a slick ride, Yuanzi smugly thinks about how he once again accidentally solved the case and stole all the credit. Meanwhile, Li Dongze is in his car, telling his team in the group chat that dinner's on him after bonuses, casually downplaying Yuanzi's role as pure coincidence. One of his subordinates immediately fires back in the chat, telling Li Dongze he has a seriously punchable way of talking. Li Dongze just scoffs, tells the musclehead to chill out, and decides it's time to report to the real boss, Centurion Fu. He pulls up the contact on his phone and places the call. The call rings, connecting him to the higher-ups. The scene cuts to Centurion Fu in his office, who picks up with a cold, one-word greeting. Before Li Dongze can even start, his boss cuts him off, giving him a 10-second window to speak while he reviews the dead man's profile. Li Dongze is momentarily struck silent, completely shut down by his superior's ice-cold demeanor. Centurion Fu then picks up his desk phone, ready for the report. Li Dongze quickly gets to the point, informing him that they've already taken care of Wu Xiangrong. Centurion Fu cuts straight to the chase, demanding to know where they found Wu Xiangrong. He praises Li Dongze's judgment, confirming the target had gone insane, and that they've prevented a major bloodbath. But when Li Dongze says they weren't the ones who killed him, Fu immediately assumes the powerful elder stationed at the university made the move. Li Dongze coolly corrects him from his car. It wasn't some elder, but the brand new night wanderer he just recruited. This leaves Centurion Fu completely dumbfounded. A level 1 rookie just took down a level 3 demon, a feat that should be impossible. Realizing they've stumbled upon a 1 in a million talent, he simply tells Li Dongs to have the new guy file a full report. The scene shifts over to the Kangyang District Public Security Bureau, the air heavy with what's to come. Our boy Yuanzi and the team are waiting grimly outside the morgue. Inside, Li Dongze explains the dangerous trade-off for night wanderers. Devouring spirits grants power but inevitably taints the soul. He then looks at Yuanzi, asking if Hez already experienced this and tried to purify the stray thoughts Hez absorbed. Our boy admits that his power comes at a hefty price, draining both his chi and his blood. He tells Li Dongs to stop teasing him, clearly not in the mood for jokes. He pulls out a small, ornate dagger from his pocket, a serious look on his face. He hands the blade to Li Dongze with a grim request. If he loses control, stab him in the thigh without hesitation. With the failsafe in place, Yuanzi activates his power, unleashing a wave of spiritual energy over the scout's corpse. The body on the slab glows intensely as Yuanzi's consciousness dives into its lingering memories. Hes suddenly overwhelmed, collapsing to his knees as the dead man's past floods his mind. The first memory is a shocker. It's the cursed red dancing shoes from the parking garage incident. Then the vision shifts, and he finds himself seeing through the scout's eyes in a lavish, unfamiliar room. The killer is revealed, a masked figure calling himself the ghost-eyed magistrate, who tried to force the scout to become his servant. The scout, Wu Shangrong, refused the offer, but the ghost-eyed magistrate wasn't his only problem. Turns out, he was already on a mission for the Spirit Authority, poisoned and forced to hunt a fugitive. The pressure was immense, and as Yuanzi dives deeper, he feels the scout's despair firsthand. A traumatic memory surfaces Wu Shangrong being mercilessly beaten by bullies, begging them to stop. The fear and helplessness from his past were still haunting him, even as a grown man. Worse, his own father was the source of it all, calling him trash for not fighting back. The vision shatters, and Yuanzi snaps back to reality, the raw emotions of the dead man clinging to him. Li Dongze rushes to his side, asking if our boy is okay after seeing him collapse. He admits this is messy and asks if Yuanzi found any clues, noticing how pale he looks. Yuanzi just says he's upset, as the dagger Li Dongze was holding clatters to the floor, forgotten. Li Dongze asks if Yuanzi is shaken by the memories, but our boy explains it was the scout's miserable past that got to him. Li Dongs muses that evil professions don't create monsters, they just attract people who were already trash, tier to begin with. He pats Yuanzi on the shoulder, telling him to get it together so they can get back to business. But Yuanzi cuts him off, his eyes glowing as he reveals he saw something huge in the scout's final moments. Standing over the body in the morgue, Yuanzi explains what he saw. He says he clearly heard a name, the ghost-eyed magistrate. The moment Li Dongze hears that name, he completely loses his cool, realizing something big has just gone down. Turns out, the ghost-eyed magistrate wields a horrifying artifact called the Fallen Holy Grail, which he uses to control other spirit walkers. Anyone baptized by the Grail's blood becomes his slave for life, forced to undergo the ritual regularly or go insane. The scene shifts as someone sets up a projector, clearly preparing for an emergency briefing on this new, terrifying threat. Li Dongze kicks off the emergency briefing, confirming that Wu Shangrong was indeed a servant of the ghost-eyed magistrate. Centurion Fu takes over, revealing that not only Wu Shangrong, but also a figure known as the Gui King, is hunting for someone called Black Impermanence. Turns out, this Black Impermanence now holds the Fallen Holy Grail and the roster of all the other enslaved madmen. Centurion Fu declares that peace is over. He's putting everyone on 24/7 standby and calls out his subordinates for being too lax. He then singles out Yuanzi for praise, saying our boy, a total rookie, completely outshone the veterans, who should be ashamed. With the main points covered, the meeting is adjourned, and the agents on screen begin to log out. The various profiles on the conference call screen start to vanish one by one, but Li Dongze notices Yuanzi hasn't left and asks if he has something to add. Yuanzi says he was just summoned to the capital for a classified briefing. He then drops an absolute bombshell on everyone still listening. The Demon Lord is dead. Li Dongze is left completely dumbfounded, as Yuanzi explains their new mission is to find the Demon Lord's successor, and all newcomers are potential candidates. Li Dongze is still reeling, demanding to know why their sect master is so obsessed with finding the Demon Lord's successor. Turns out, when a powerful spirit realm walker dies, their character card resets and seeks a new owner, sometimes retaining special benefits. Meanwhile, Centurion Fu mulls over the 4 new night wanderers in Songhai, noting the last one is our boy, the primordial heavenly lord. Back in the office, Yuanzi is just clicking away at his computer. Hess casually wondering when he'll get paid for clearing the residual spirit tunnel. Guanya investigator pops up, explaining his merits need approval, and the money will come with next month's salary. She then asks about the big emergency meeting Centurion Fu suddenly called, but she figures he's just briefing the other squad leaders. Yuanzi couldn't care less, saying it's big shot business and he's clocking out for dinner. Elsewhere, Li Dongze is already performing a strange ritual, placing a mysterious box within a glowing circle. The ritual seems to be working, as the sinister red mask of the ghost-eyed magistrate begins to materialize on a table. Meanwhile, a mysterious masked follower begins a dark ritual, holding a knife over an ornate box. He slices his finger, letting his blood drip onto a strange, beetle-like charm to activate it. The charm cracks open with a sinister energy, the blood sacrifice having worked its magic. A swirling vortex of flame erupts from the offering as the follower kneels in reverence. He reports to the fiery entity that the bait has been released, and the Five Elements Alliance is now searching for black impermanence. The fiery messenger gives him a new directive: secretly cooperate with the Alliance and report any findings. It warns him that it will be inside the spirit realm and might not be able to respond quickly. The messenger then reveals its own agenda, investigating the true secret behind the ghost-eyed magistrate's death. With its orders delivered, the fiery spirit dissipates into thin air. Back at home, our boy Yuanzi walks in, but his cousin immediately asks him about some trouble that went down at school. Yuanzi plays dumb, claiming he was in the library all day when his cousin tells him about a kidnapping and murder at school. But while munching on a bun, our boy casually thinks to himself that yeah, he's the one who did the killing. Changing the subject, he asks his guardian where his aunt is, noting that she's late coming home from work. Just then, the front door lock clicks open. His blue-haired aunt stumbles in, looking completely wiped out and begging her mom for some food. The guardian isn't having it, firing back and asking if her own daughter has lost the use of her arms and legs. But as his aunt walks past, Yuanzi's eyes widen. He senses a sinister purple aura clinging to her leg, identifying it as an infant spirit. He instantly realizes the grim truth. The hospital his aunt works at must be seriously haunted. A closer look reveals the horrifying parasite, a ghostly fetus latched onto her, draining her life force. Completely oblivious, his aunt just gets annoyed, snapping at Yuanzi for staring at her so intensely. Yuanzi worries the spirit is trying to possess his aunt, but she just snaps back at him for staring so hard. Oblivious to the danger, she picks up a piece of meat, ready to dig in after a long day. She takes a big bite, but her expression immediately sours. Confused, she asks her mom if she forgot to add salt, but the guardian retorts that the food was store-bought. The aunt then complains she can't even smell anything, prompting her mom to ask if she's caught a cold. Our boy knows exactly what's going on and quietly places a hand on her back to get a better read. He realizes the infant spirit isn't malicious, it's just hungry and wants to eat. The little ghost is actually devouring the spiritual essence of the food, which is why his aunt can't taste a thing. But after a few bites, the spirit starts wailing, clearly still hungry, and Yuanzi is getting fed up with the noise. Deciding he's had enough, he begins to gather his own energy to deal with the crying ghost himself. He scoops up the wailing spirit, smoothly telling his family he's just popping to the bathroom to handle some business. Once out of sight, he commands the little ghost to stop crying, and instantly, his aunt exclaims that her senses are back. In private, our boy realizes the spirit wasn't after his aunt, but the potent night wanderer energy shed picked up from him. Seeing that it's just starving, he decides to feed the little guy a taste of his own pure spiritual power. He pulls up an old forum post and gets a crash course on spirit lore, learning that night wanderers can refine spirits into powerful servants. The pieces start to click. This isn't some trash-tier ghost, but a rare spirit servant that has already developed a special ability. A wicked little smirk spreads across his face as he realizes what a massive opportunity has just fallen into his lap. Without a second thought, he holds out the spirit and offers it a pact it can't possibly refuse. The contract is sealed, revealing the spirit's insane ability to exchange senses with a target. That's how it stole his aunt's taste and smell. With his new pet officially bound, he gives it a fitting new name: Little Dumbass. The very next day, our boy gets an unexpected summons to the local police station. Inside, Li Dongzi informs him that a night wanderer from the prestigious Taiyi sect is here to ask him some questions. Yuanzi's ego immediately inflates, wondering if the sect finally recognized his genius and wants to recruit him. He follows Li Dongzi down the hall, his mind racing with possibilities, heading straight for a meeting room. Li Dongzi swings open the door, announcing the arrival of their outstanding newcomer to a certain Captain Yuan. He introduces the man as Captain Yuan Ting, a level 3 night wanderer, privately thinking elder son was a fool to miss this kid's talent. Yuanzi immediately lays on the charm, claiming he feels an instant sense of family, a special bond between night wanderers. The captain, however, is completely unfazed, knowing full well that night wanderers share no such sentimental connection. Without missing a beat, Yuanzi pivots, smoothly suggesting it must just be the captain's personal charisma he's feeling. Captain Yuan can't help but crack a smile. This kid's got a silver tongue, and he agrees that elder son was truly blind. Li Dongzi gestures for our boy to take a seat, formally addressing him as Primordial Heavenly. Before they can even start, Yuanzi blurts out that he's happy in Team 2 and has zero plans to transfer. Captain Yuan just smiles, explaining he can't poach him anyway since Commander Fu values him so highly after the Yuling tunnel incident. He then reveals that Elder Sun completely blew it by refusing to send guides, and now it's way too late for regrets. The captain then offers Yuanzi a smoke, but our boy politely turns him down. So, Yuanting just lights one up for himself, the flame casting a grim shadow. He admits he only picked up the habit because of the psychological trauma from his own trial missions. Every night wanderer has their own vice. Getting down to business, he reveals they're searching for someone who inherited the Demon Lord's legacy. Yuanting begins to explain the world's rules. When a spirit realm walker dies, their character card is normally reclaimed by the system. However, when a high-level walker dies, their card isn't completely wiped, leaving behind special traits for a newcomer, a phenomenon known as a legacy. Intrigued, our boy asks just who this Demon Lord was and why the authorities are so desperate to find his successor. Yuanting admits that as a mid-level officer, he's just following orders and doesn't know the higher-ups' true motives. He explains the Demon Lord was a fallen night wanderer, a total monster who even made the Taiyi sect elders tremble in fear. Yuanzi can't help but think the guy sounds less terrifying and more like some edgy teenager trying too hard. He then asks how to identify the successor, slyly adding that a righteous sect wouldn't punish an innocent person, right? The captain reveals two signs. The successor's card has a full moon, and they get an exclusive reward after each instance. Yuanzi is absolutely dumbfounded. His mind flashes back to the card his roommate sent him. It's the Demon Lord's. Then it hits him like a truck. The red dancing shoes were the exclusive reward, and he's damn glad he kept that a secret. Playing it cool, he leans back and claims he must not be the one, asking how to show his crescent mark since he can't control it. But Yuanting just smirks, revealing that low-level walkers can't change their mark. He doesn't need to see it, he just needs to know if Yuanzi is lying. Yuanting pulls out a command token, explaining it's a little something from Commander Fu that forces obedience and prevents lies, though it binds him to the truth as well. Our boy Yuanzi immediately starts sweating, realizing he's just been backed into a corner with no easy way out. With a flick of his wrist, Yuanting activates the artifact. Red energy flares as he gets straight to the point, demanding to know if Yuanzi's Night Wanderer mark is a crescent or a full moon. The token's power washes over Yuanzi, a magical compulsion that tries to pry the truth from his lips. He feels his own will crumbling, realizing this power forces confession and will make him submit in just a few seconds. But his mind races against the clock. He knows he can't tell the truth, and there must be a deeper reason the Taiyi sect is so desperate to find the successor. Suddenly, a light bulb goes off. He remembers he can transfer damage and negative effects to his spirit servant, the infant spirit. Seeing that the token is all pressure with no real harm, he gambles and shunts the truth-seeking magic onto his little spirit, hoping it can bear the burden. With no other choice, Yuanzi mentally screams at his infant spirit to wake up and earn its keep. The tiny spirit is suddenly slammed with the full force of the truth-seeking magic, getting engulfed in its crimson energy. Like a champ, the little guy tanks the entire spell, absorbing every last wisp of the compulsion magic. The pressure instantly vanishes, and Yuanzi coolly lies through his teeth, claiming his mark is just a crescent moon. Yuanting, completely oblivious, sees the artifact remain inert and continues his questioning, which our boy easily deflects. Believing the lie, Yuanting lets out a huge sigh of relief, thinking he's finally cleared a suspect. He tells Yuanzi he's passed the check for now but warns him the Taiyi sect is still hunting for the true successor. Our boy puts on an award-winning performance, promising to report anyone suspicious while secretly vowing to never betray himself. Yuanting buys it completely, adding that being the successor is a cursed blessing of high-risk, high-reward missions anyway. With the interrogation over, Yuanzi confidently agrees to keep his eyes peeled. Yuanting then offers to mentor him, saying Night Wanderers are a rare breed and he's the only one who can guide him. He slides over his contact info, telling our boy to hit him up if he ever gets stuck. Thinking he's just met a stand-up guy, Yuanzi eagerly adds him to his contacts. But the captain just smirks, clarifying that his top-tier advice certainly isn't free, leaving our boy dumbfounded. Yuanting notes that Yuanzi's progress is insanely fast, hitting Spirit Realm in a week when it takes others too. He calls that first tip a freebie. But when Yuanzi asks another question, the captain says the price depends on the query. Our boy asks if Night Wanderers eventually get the spirit of the sun, and his mind is blown when Yuanting confirms it. Satisfied with the intel, Yuanzi thanks the captain and takes his leave, ready for the next challenge. Li Dongze sees right through him and tells him to cut the flattery, so Yuanzi asks for a full background check on someone named Lei Yibing. He then adds that his aunt's hospital is haunted, suspecting a rogue Night Wanderer is refining spirits there, a task Li Dongze agrees to look into. The team leader is absolutely furious at the thought. muttering that if someone is refining spirits, he'll personally make them rot. Yuanzi reports that he purified the infant spirit and saw the target in its memories, now asking for a solo mission to train and take them down. While praising his initiative, Li Dongze warns him that one mistake means death and assigns the more experienced Guanya to go with him. Our boy happily accepts his new partner and heads out with a sly grin, wondering if he should go find her right away. Their destination is Pingtai Hospital, a massive, top-5 facility in the Kangyang district where the haunting is taking place. A sleek black car pulls through the hospital gates, carrying our duo to the scene of the crime. As Yuanzi gets out, Guanya is already waiting, leaning against the car and cryptically asking if he's been seeing double on his phone. Guanya teases him, saying his face shows he hasn't been holding back, but our boy just cuts to the chase and asks for the plan. She lays out the strategy. Use his memory of the target's face to find his ID, then make contact to size him up. The full investigation involves checking ghost rumors and, crucially, sifting through abortion records to identify the infant's father. Yuanzi is genuinely impressed by her scout-level logic, wondering if this is standard procedure for her class. He smoothly replies that with her around, he doesn't need to think, which clearly makes an impression on his new partner. With their roles established, the duo confidently strides into the hospital, ready to hunt down their rogue spirit refiner. Inside, Yuanzi realizes his aunt works there, so Guanya decides they'll split up to avoid any awkward run-ins. They both throw on masks and caps, going incognito before splitting off down the sterile hospital corridor. Guanya immediately heads for the stairs, making a beeline for the 4th floor to begin her side of the investigation. Guanya, now fully disguised, begins her sweep of the hospital, her eyes peeled for any leads. She quickly spots a familiar-looking nurse, tending to a patient, and realizes it must be Yuanzi's aunt. Confirming her suspicion, Guanya knows she has to play this smart to get the info she needs without blowing their cover. She walks right up to the aunt, putting on an act and asking for advice about a planned pregnancy. The aunt, completely unsuspecting, tells her there's a lot to discuss and invites her to come along. Meanwhile, Yuanzi finds a secluded stairwell and summons his newly bound infant spirit. The adorable but powerful little spirit materializes, ready for its first official mission. Yuanzi explains the plan. The spirit will act as bait, since its former master won't be able to resist reclaiming such a rare prize. With a happy little sound, the infant spirit zips off, acting as the perfect homing beacon to find their target. Our boy follows the spirit's energy trail, which leads him straight to the obstetrics ward of all places. He cautiously peeks around the corner to see who the little spirit has locked onto. Turns out Guanya's charm offensive is a massive success. She and his aunt are already chatting away like old pals. Yuanzi is just dumbfounded, realizing his partner can literally talk about anything with anyone. The infant spirit has found its mark, hovering right by the aunt's leg, completely unnoticed by the two women. His aunt casually asks where her husband is, and Guanya smoothly replies that he's still in college. Hearing this, Yuanzi is completely lost, wondering why her fake story sounds so suspiciously familiar. His aunt takes the bait, mentioning her own nephew is a single college student. Our boy just smirks from his hiding spot, thinking his aunt has no room to talk about being single. The infant spirit, having latched on, turns its head as if confirming the target. From down the hall, Yuanzi watches his little spirit buddy peel off and float away on its mission. Meanwhile, his aunt compliments Guanya on her acting skills, but still seems skeptical that a college kid could support a family. The infant spirit zips right into an office, finding its mark. A doctor sitting calmly at his desk. Our boy spots the consultation room and knows instantly that the man inside is their target. He takes a seat outside the room, pulling out his phone to coordinate the next move. He quickly texts Guanya to cut the chatter, informing her he's locked onto their guy. Getting the message, Guanya smoothly tells the aunt her husband just texted and she's off to meet him. The aunt watches her go, thinking to herself that at least this husband knows how to keep his wife company. Guanya strides down the empty hospital corridor, heading straight for Yuanzi to begin the real operation. Guanya joins him, and he confirms the target is an obstetrician named Wang Qian. She lays out the plan to test his strength first. Our boy is a bit dumbfounded, asking how exactly she plans on testing a potentially dangerous target. She just gives him a sly, knowing smile, as if she's got it all under control. Her eyes suddenly flash a menacing red as she activates her insight ability to scan the man through the door. A moment later, she reports back. The doctor has decent yin energy, roughly level 2 mid-stage, and he's already wary. She explains it's a basic scout skill, then gives him the plan. If she's not out in 10 seconds, he needs to storm the room. With a confident flick of her hair, she tells him to wait for her signal. She then coolly enters the doctor's office, ready to confront their mark. Yuanzi leans against the wall outside, arms crossed as he begins the 10-second countdown in his head. The time is up, and with no sign of Guanya, he realizes something's wrong and he has to go in. Not wasting a single second, our boy pushes open the door and steps inside. He finds Guanya already sitting across from their target, looking completely at ease. The doctor glares at them, his expression dripping with annoyance at the sudden intrusion. Guanya calmly introduces herself as an investigator from the Five Elements Alliance, accusing him of illegally refining spirit servants. But the doctor just scoffs, pushing up his glasses and threatening to call the police if they don't stop interfering with his work. He tries to dismiss them to call his next patient, making Yuanzi realize that Guanya must have underestimated this guy. Thinking fast, Yuanzi steps forward and blocks the door, making it crystal clear they aren't going anywhere. In a bizarre twist, the doctor suddenly bursts into a strange, enchanting song, filling the room with a weird, hypnotic energy. The melody slams into Yuanzi, overwhelming him with an unbearable sadness, like he's just had his heart shattered into a million pieces. Guanya, however, remains completely unfazed, gripping her chair as she weathers the psychic assault without even flinching. Done playing games, Guanya stomps forward, her boot crackling with power. She unleashes a lightning-fast kick, aiming to shut the doctor's mouth for good. The doctor doesn't even have time to react as the blow connects squarely with his back. He's sent flying across the room in a brutal display of force. Coughing up blood, the doctor slumps against the wall, completely dumbfounded by her immunity and strength. The sound of the impact snaps Yuanzi out of his trance, his mind still reeling from the psychic attack. Our boy is utterly baffled, wondering why on earth he was feeling heartbroken over some random dude. Guanya smirks, casually explaining that the doctor is a musician, a user of sound-based abilities. She lays down the law, placing him under arrest, but he scoffs, claiming he's from the Slaying Palace and they have a non-interference pact. Guanya explains to Yuanzi that the Slaying Palace is a local group of extremists, and their master is a lunatic, which really sets the doctor off. Guanya shuts him down, stating the pact is void if he breaks the law, while the doctor desperately denies refining any spirit servant. With a predatory smirk, she gives him a little hint, asking if he remembers a certain child. The doctor's composure shatters, admitting it's about the kid but swearing it was an accident since musicians like him can't refine spirits. Both Guanya and Yuanzi are completely unimpressed by his flimsy excuse. Our boy gets straight to the point, asking the doctor if he really used his own nephew for this twisted ritual. The doctor insists it was an accident, launching into a sob story about his sister falling and the baby dying during an emergency C-section. He explains he used a special item from his organization to try and save the baby, but it accidentally turned his deceased nephew into a spirit. This is why the ghost rumors started. The infant spirit, not understanding anything, instinctively wanders the hospital craving attention. Yuanzi cuts through the BS, asking him if he really just let a dangerous spirit roam free this whole time. The doctor looks away, admitting his class only lets him sense his nephew's spirit, not touch it, so he can only wait for it to fade away. The doctor finally slumps over, his pathetic excuses and energy completely spent. With the truth revealed, the little infant spirit materializes, and even Guanya has to admit the kid's backstory is tragic. But sympathy won't save him. She lays down the law, warning him not to even think about leaving Songhai. Back at their headquarters, they're greeted by their colleague Wang Tai, who tells them the captain is out dealing with a shaman. Our boy's mind immediately starts racing. A shaman from the Spirit Guild sounds way too connected to the ghost-eyed magistrate incident. Guanya gets straight to business, ordering Wang Tai to pull up files on the Slaying Palace, confirming this case is getting complicated. Just then, Yuanzi's phone buzzes on the desk with an urgent notification. It's a message from Li Dongze, telling him to wait for a pickup because he needs a favor, and fast. The text revealed the grim details. A shaman is dead, and a high and mighty Tai Night Wanderer refused to intervene. Infuriated that a so-called ally would be so trashed here, Yuanzi immediately replies that he's on his way. True to his word, Yuanzi speeds over to the designated location, the city morgue. He steps into a hallway already packed with a motley crew of specialists, all waiting for something to happen. Li Dongz observes the crowd, thinking about the sheer variety of classes present, from mages to monster tamers. He greets our boy and introduces the man in charge, Captain Li Yuanfang of Fengwei Unit 2, who just sighs at the formal introduction. The captain gives Yuanzi a once-over, acknowledging his reputation as the White Tiger Guard's talented new Night Wanderer. As Yuanzi approaches, he overhears the other agents muttering about how much they hate relying on the arrogant Tai Yi sect. Captain Li Yuanfang cuts straight to the chase, explaining the victim was a level 3 shaman, and the residual spirit is extremely dangerous. Without a hint of hesitation, our boy confidently tells him it's no problem at all. He's got this. With the briefing over, Li Dongze dramatically pulls the sheet off the gurney to reveal the victim. Yuanzi is absolutely dumbfounded, recoiling in shock as he realizes just how horribly the shaman died. Li Dongzi explains that transcendent shamans have two main tricks, and this poor soul died using one of them. They can either raise parasitic goo for stealthy kills, or merge with them to gain monstrous power. Turns out, this shaman was killed mid-merge while fighting another, and the spirit is now dangerously feral. Our boy just tells his team leader to stab him if he loses control, a grim but necessary precaution. With the plan set, Yuanzi places his hand on the corpse and begins the spiritual inquiry, his aura flaring to life. A tormented spirit erupts from the body, its silent scream echoing in the spiritual plane. Yuanzi absorbs the lingering memories, his eyes glowing as he sifts through the dead man's life. Hess shocked to learn this shaman wasn't some noble warrior, but a trash-tier outlaw and loan shark. Meanwhile, in a dark, lavish room, a shadowy figure reports some big news to his superior. The ghost-eyed magistrate is dead, but when the subordinate asks how, the masked deacon coldly tells him it's none of his business. The deacon explains this is the outlaw's chance to rise, revealing that Black Impermanence is on the run with two vital items. He orders the outlaw to use a list of subordinates to hunt him down, a memory that flashes brightly in Yuanzi's mind. The spiritual inquiry ends, and our boy has absorbed all the critical information. He stumbles back, realizing this was all part of a power grab within the Spirit Guild's East Branch. Wiping a nosebleed, Yuanzi tells Li Dongzi he's found a major clue and is sending him a list of names. Li Dongzi is pleased, but Yuanzi feels uneasy, thinking it's too convenient, like they're being fed clues. As his boss walks off, Yuanzi mutters under his breath, annoyed that another unit will likely steal their credit. Li Dongzi enters another room to brief Captain Li Yuanfang and his team, who ask if there are any new leads. With a smug look, Li Dongzi announces that his unit secured a list of Black Impermanence's subordinates. The captain agrees to look into it, but immediately declares his unit will be taking 10% of the reward for their trouble. Meanwhile, at a seemingly ordinary coffee shop, another faction is making its move. Inside, a high-stakes meeting is underway, and they're getting right to the point, the ghost-eyed magistrate case. A man with brown hair lays it all out. Wu Xiangrong was just bait, and the shaman they killed was a pawn in the Demon Lord's game. Turns out, this is a meeting of some serious power players, all gathered around a table with a poodle sitting right in the middle. The poodle speaks, declaring that with a common enemy, they're now allies, and their top priority is securing the dangerous fallen Holy Grail. A woman with wavy hair agrees, suggesting they need to screen their own people for moles, and that she'll need the tiger tally to do it. The conversation then shifts, as a man with gray hair brings up our boy, mentioning he's the one who killed Wu Xiangrong. He then gets territorial, coldly telling the others to refuse Elder Hongying's request to recruit Yuanzi, or hell do it himself. But the woman just scoffs, arguing that giving up one night wanderer for a favor from the powerful Tai Yi is more than worth it. The leader just sits there, listening to the internal squabbling, realizing this new recruit is already causing waves. The leader continues his rant, complaining that Tai Yi's night wanderers are divas compared to their own loyal grunts. The wavy-haired woman couldn't care less, saying Tai Yi has plenty of agents, but her subordinate insists they need people they can trust. But the poodle puts its paw down, declaring that Yuanzi stays and that the gray-haired man will reject the offer personally. The gray-haired man simply smirks and agrees, clearly pleased that he gets to keep his new prize. Meanwhile, our boy Yuanzi is completely oblivious to the high-level politics, just chilling in bed, scrolling on his phone. He gets a text from Guan Ya, who clears the Wang Qian case as an accident and tells him to go handle the paperwork. Just then, a rather steamy thank you selfie pops up from the woman he just helped, Wang Qian. Guan Ya tells him to use this to build connections, but he jokes about his future wife, only for her to remind him his next dungeon is coming up. Our boy quickly texts back, praying it's not another S-rank death trap, and as he worries about his next mission, Wang Qian walks out of her bathroom, blissfully unaware of his chaotic life, and it seems Wang Qian is feeling very grateful, sending our boy a rather spicy selfie as thanks. Guan Ya's response is blunt, telling him they expect great things, while Wang Qian sends a cute sticker rooting for him. Yuanzi decides to deal with the new connection tomorrow, signing off for the night. The next day, our boy heads over to the hospital to tie up the loose ends from the case. He finds the doctor from the incident, casually pointing out that he seems pretty down in the dumps. The doctor's mind is elsewhere, realizing with a heavy heart that he can no longer sense the familiar presence. He thinks back to his sister's child, his first nephew, and how the whole family had been waiting for him. A painful memory surfaces of his sister and her partner grieving the miscarriage, and how he felt the lonely spirit of the baby lingering. Back in the present, he tells Yuanzi that parting is inevitable, and our boy seems to understand the weight of his words. Yuanzi then gets down to business, telling Dr. Wang he's now an official walker and needs to sign some papers before offering him a side gig as his personal informant. Dr. Wang agrees to the paperwork but says becoming an informant requires approval, internally noting that while the slaying palace is neutral, this kid has zero respect. Unfazed, Yuanzi just tells him it's no problem and asks who he should say is making the request. Our boy drops his official title with ice-cold confidence, Primordial Heavenly Lord. The doctor is taken aback but agrees to ask, warning him not to get his hopes up since his organization doesn't work with grunts. Yuanzi just smirks, says he'll wait, and casually turns to leave, putting all the pressure back on the doctor. As he watches our boy walk away, Dr. Wang can only mutter in thought, processing the sheer audacity. He pulls out his phone and calls a contact saved under the name Love-Struck Saint. He reports to his leader, explaining that he already tried to hint at a refusal to the strange kid. But the voice on the other end has a different plan, stating that with Songhai so unstable, they need eyes on the officials and must agree to the partnership. Dumbfounded, the doctor listens as his leader gives the final order. Watch him, watch the Primordial Heavenly Lord. Still on the phone, Dr. Wang questions why they'd ever deal with a grunt like him. Turns out, his leader knows exactly who he is, the rookie who broke the Shelling Tunnel record and killed a level 3 demon. The doctor finally gets it. This plain-looking guy is the infamous Primordial Heavenly Lord. Meanwhile, under the same moon, a different power awakens over an ancient rooftop. The Lady of Sandow materializes, wondering how she fell into this strange new world. She floats above the tiles, a being of immense power completely out of place. Suddenly, a brilliant golden spear of light rips through the night sky, aimed right at her. It erupts into a massive, swirling vortex of divine energy, a direct challenge to her existence. The powerful attack dissipates, leaving only shimmering motes of light against the moon. A single tear of blood runs down her face, but she just smirks, intrigued by this new world's power. The Lady of Sandow decides that if she's stuck, she might as well wreak some havoc. She gathers a terrifying amount of golden energy, ready to unleash it on this new world. With a single motion, she launches the condensed power straight up into the night sky. Her attack travels an insane distance, smashing into the spiritual plane with explosive force. The energy manifests as a massive, phoenix-like construct of pure, devastating light. The very fabric of the spiritual realm cracks and shatters from the sheer impact of her power. Far away from the chaos, the spiritual shockwave ripples through a peaceful, sunlit garden. An old man, who was just chilling in his chair, suddenly snaps to attention, feeling the disturbance. His eyes fly open as a golden sigil flares to life on his forehead. Sensing the massive anomaly, he immediately orders his subordinate to get the disciples ready, warning that the Night Wanderer spirit realm has been altered. Meanwhile, at the Tai sect headquarters, a subordinate reports that the Hangzhou branch needs an inquiry on a level 2 Night Wanderer. The captain couldn't care less, telling his guy to find someone else because his solo dungeon is about to pop. But when the notification hits, he's absolutely dumbfounded. It's an S-rank, death-type mission in a place called Minghu Town. Back with our boy Yuanzi, he's just lazing around on his bed, yawning as he checks his phone. He's surprised to see a message from Wang Qian, who has already agreed to be his informant and is just waiting for instructions. His eyes then land on his medicine bottle, and he realizes he's been so wrapped up in everything that he's missed his meds for 2 days. The strange part is, he hasn't had any episodes, making him wonder if becoming a Night Wanderer has fundamentally changed his body. With a new sense of determination, he decides it's time to put this theory to the test. He closes his eyes and focuses inward, feeling the steady, powerful beat of his own heart. As he meditates, his mind fills with images of his family, the very people he's fighting for, grounding him in his newfound power. His mind drifts over recent events, Wang Qian's cooperation, Li Dongze's awkwardness, and even Dr. Wang's sudden change of heart. But just as he's getting deep into his trance, a sudden noise snaps him right out of it. It's his aunt, popping her head in with a bright smile, announcing that he's going shopping with her. A few hours later, our boy is completely drained, surrounded by shopping bags while his aunt is somehow still bursting with energy. Taking a break, he decides to kill some time by checking the official Night Wanderer forum. He scrolls past the usual chatter until a shocking headline catches his eye. The post details a massive, nationwide spike in S and A rank spirit realms, with official wanderers going missing left and right. Another post confirms it. Dungeons are being replaced or upgraded, difficulty has skyrocketed, and casualties are piling up. Yuanzi is floored, wondering why so many high-ranked dungeons are suddenly appearing out of nowhere. A wave of panic hits him as he realizes his turn is coming up, and he wonders if it's too late to back out and change classes. Hoping for answers, our boy dives into the comment section to see what the community thinks. It's a total dumpster fire, with users panicking about everything from the Demon Lord's death to a shortage of manpower. He messages his contact, Yuan Ting, who confirms the official channels are in chaos and an announcement is coming soon. Suddenly, his aunt ruffles his hair, snapping him out of his trance. She playfully asks if his phone is more interesting than she is, having called his name multiple times. Thinking fast, Yuanzi claims he was just checking the exam schedule, which surprises his aunt. He awkwardly laughs it off, using studying as the perfect excuse to bail and get back to his research. Safely back in his room, he immediately gets to work, but not on any school assignments. He flips open his laptop with a sense of urgency, the light illuminating his determined face. With fingers flying across the keyboard, he begins digging for the truth behind the sudden crisis. He immediately finds what he's looking for, an official announcement from the Tai sect. The post is a bombshell, confirming a spirit realm mutation caused by a high-level boss revival, affecting 8 dungeons. Our boy reads through the details, his expression growing more grim by the second. The forums are already exploding with panic as players realize the danger now extends beyond just the Night Wanderers. Then it hits him like a truck. Even multiplayer realms are affected, and his next mission is exactly that type. Just as he's trying to process this terrible timing, his phone starts buzzing. The caller ID flashes a name he knows all too well, his team leader, Li Dong's. Yuanzi answers the call, his voice steady despite the chaos unfolding. Li Dongze calmly asks if he's seen the news, telling him to trust the organization but also teasing that he could clear the dungeons himself. Yuanzi cuts to the chase, and his leader reveals that Centurion Fu has confirmed the Jinshui amusement park is now a transcendent-level threat. Li Dongs warns him that relying on the old dungeon guides is a one-way ticket to the grave now that the realms have changed. Our boy gets all misty-eyed, touched that his busy Centurion is still thinking about his safety. His leader quickly downplays it, saying it's just a precaution since the odds of getting that specific death trap are low. Yuanzi's focus snaps back to the real issue, asking about the second matter, while thinking of the Demon Lord card. Li Dongze reveals their investigation into Lei Yibing, painting him as a loner whose bullies had a habit of dying in accidents. But Yuanzi immediately calls BS, remembering his friend Bing as a hot-headed brawler would throw a punch before he'd argue. He racks his brain, realizing something must have happened to Bing between high school and college to change him so drastically. The secrecy makes no sense. Bing could have just told him he became a walker, so why all the mystery? Li Dongze then drops the lead. Agents found a diary with an entry written the night before Bing mailed him the card. Suddenly laser-focused, Yuanzi demands to see it, and his leader agrees to send over the photos right away. The call ends, and our boy puts his phone down, his mind already on the next step. He stands before his computer, waiting for the files that could hold all the answers. A moment later, the promised diary photos arrive and the download begins. Without wasting a second, he unzips the file, ready to dive into his friend's last thoughts. Dozens of scanned pages fill the screen, a digital ghost of his friend's final days. The first entry he reads is pure nostalgia, reminiscing about their childhood antics of stealing books and scamming money. Yuanzi slumps into his chair, the weight of the memories and the mystery pressing down on him. But then it hits him like a bolt of lightning. This isn't just a diary. Bing left him a clue. His mind immediately jumps to their old stomping grounds, Bing's neighborhood, and he knows the exact spot, apartment 402, the scene of their old schemes. Wasting no time, our boy Yuanzi arrives at apartment 402, ringing the doorbell with a bag of fruit in hand. The door opens to reveal Bing's mother, her face etched with grief, utterly surprised to see him standing there. He greets her politely as Auntie Zhou, explaining that he came to pay her and Uncle Lei a visit. She manages a faint smile and invites him inside, mentioning that Bing's father is still at work. Inside, the air is thick with sorrow as she mentions that even Yuanzi's grandma came by, telling her that no news is good news. Thinking on his feet, Yuanzi says he has class soon but asks if he can sit in Bing's room for a while, a perfect excuse to investigate. The second he's alone, he doesn't hesitate, immediately reaching under the bed for a hidden spot he remembers from their childhood. Just as he suspected, his fingers find a dusty old box, the secret stash they used to share. Rummaging through the old trinkets, his eyes lock onto a specific book titled Romance of Sui Yangdi. This has to be it, the real clue Bing left for him, and he pulls the book out, his investigation finally gaining traction. He brushes the dust off the cover, and just as he opens it, a small slip of paper flutters out. It's a hidden note. Falling right into his lap, this is the real message. Our boy instantly recognizes it as a secret number code he and Bing made up, using this very book as their key. Sitting down, he deciphers the message. A number, a nostalgic phrase, and a desperate plea for him to find it. He knows Bing wouldn't be sentimental now. The phrase is a red herring, but the number 6203 must be a password or location. Hiding in the bathroom, he pieces it all together. Everything must be linked to the Demon Lord card and Bing's disappearance. With the message memorized, he crumples the note, ready to erase any evidence of his discovery. He tears it into tiny pieces and flushes it down the toilet, leaving no trace for anyone else to find. Playing it cool, he tells Bing's mom he's off to class, keeping his grim findings completely to himself. Outside, he decides to go solo on this for now, realizing his priority is to get stronger by tackling the next Spirit Realm mission. On his way, our boy mulls over the Spirit Realm system, knowing that failure in a multiplayer dungeon could even make him weaker. He knows leveling up isn't easy. Even veterans get stuck at level 2 if they don't tackle high-risk, high-reward dungeons. The biggest problem with multiplayer missions is simple. You can get dragged down by a bunch of trash-tier teammates. Hopping into a taxi, he pulls out his phone to do some research on the official forums. The first thing he sees is a grim post. Another agent was just sacrificed in an S-rank dungeon called Jinshui Amusement Park. The entire forum is in a panic, with users freaking out about the low survival rates and the sheer difficulty of S-rank clears. Yuanzi, however, scoffs at their math, knowing that the amusement park dungeon actually has a higher clear rate than his solo missions. Just then, a message pops up from Wang Qian, his informant from the Slaying Palace. She's heard whispers about the Jinshui amusement park and knows the old guide for it is selling for a fortune on the black market. She offers him a 70/30 split to sell it for her, and our boy, who has exactly what she needs, instantly agrees to the deal. Wang Qian lays out the deal, offering to sell the old guide through her channels for a 70/30 split. But our boy shuts her down flat, saying he has an old version but has no intention of selling it. He asks about the value of a new guide instead, and she explains S-rank guides are priceless before logging off. Yuanzi just smirks, remembering that the ever-prepared Li Dongze had already emailed him the guide for this very dungeon. He finds the email in a flash and taps to download the attachment. The file downloads successfully, giving him the key to surviving this death trap. The guide reveals a twisted rule for the haunted house. A ghost bride instantly kills the most handsome player. He scoffs, thinking this ghost bride is nothing compared to his trial mission. But now he gets why the guide is worth a fortune. A glint of understanding flashes in his eyes. He scrolls through the panicked forum posts again, now holding the very information these poor souls are dying for. Suddenly, a specific post title catches his eye. No, 6,203, and our boy breaks out in a cold sweat. Lost in thought, he completely zones out in the taxi, earning a grumble from the driver about phone zombies. He realizes 6,203 is the code for Jinshui Amusement Park, where his friend Bing left everything. The implications are terrifying. Back home, he rips off his shirt, his mind racing with the horrifying possibility that the dungeons aren't random at all. He quickly flips the switches and locks himself in his room, preparing for the inevitable midnight entry. With the door secured, he steels himself for the coming trial. The clock hits 23:59, and he desperately prays he doesn't get matched with any special, high-difficulty dungeons. But fate is cruel. The system interface flares to life, announcing the spirit realm is opening in 60 seconds. His worst fears are confirmed. He's been assigned to the S, difficulty, death type, Jinshui Amusement Park, number 6,203. Utterly panicked, he immediately dials his only lifeline, screaming for Guanya's help. On the other end, Guanya answers, groggily complaining that anyone who wakes her up owes her a huge meal. But her sleepiness vanishes when Yuanzi blurts out he's entering the Jinshui Amusement Park dungeon, and the line goes dead. Before he's even inside, we get a glimpse of the dungeon's brutality a previous team slaughtered, with one survivor whispering that it's all pointless. The scene shifts to a few minutes ago, showing the Jinshui Amusement Park in all its glittering, nostalgic glory. It was a place of joy and light, a stark contrast to the death trap it has now become. Even the carousel seems to hold memories of happier times, now just a silent monument to the past. A young girl in a school uniform, one of the new team members, had just been admiring how beautiful the park looked. Suddenly, Yuanzi finds himself inside with his new team, suggesting they introduce themselves to build some trust. A cocky red-haired guy named Fire Demon steps up, followed by an older man named Hebo, a quiet father, and the schoolgirl, Xie Lingxi. The introductions finish with a sultry woman named Shi and a blonde guy who calls himself the Great Sage. Yuanzi gets the ball rolling, warning everyone that this S-rank dungeon is no joke and they need a plan. Shi chimes in, noting that the officials confirmed the park's difficulty has spiked and their old guide is now useless. The whole dysfunctional crew stands around, tension so thick you could cut it with a knife. Our boy immediately senses the problem, thinking to himself that there's a serious lack of trust here. The father figure speaks up, pointing out that the system is silent, so they have to rely on each other and share intel. Just then, Xie Lingxi timidly raises her hand, admitting she knows a bit from the old version of this spirit realm. Shishi explains the real reason for the change. A mysterious entity ordered the spirits to find a man with a 4-character name. The great sage connects the dots, theorizing the difficulty ramped up because a spirit received a blessing from that entity. The father figure proposes a plan. They'll avoid the horror attractions and stick to the simple stuff to minimize risk. He then turns to the schoolgirl, asking her just how much she remembers from the old, detailed guide. Suddenly, a system notification floods our boy's vision, appointing him the secret team captain. Hez dumbfounded. Not only is there a hidden task, but there's a traitor, a werewolf, among them. He quickly realizes this S-rank mission is a psychological game. He has to find the traitor without revealing his own hand. Returning to reality, Yuanzi chimes in, agreeing that the difficulty spike is probably just for the supernatural attractions. The father figure nods in approval, impressed by the high-level insight from our boy. He then asks the group if anyone has objections to their plan of tackling the easy stuff first. With no one speaking up, he turns to the schoolgirl, asking her to pick their first, simple attraction. Without a moment's hesitation, Xie Lingxi points directly at the massive, terrifying roller coaster. The entire group is absolutely floored, their faces a mix of confusion and disbelief. Shishi asks her what she's thinking, and the girl innocently explains that the old guide said it was easy, just close your eyes. The great sage tries to play it safe, pointing to the carousel and suggesting it looks harmless. But Xie Lingxi immediately shuts him down, explaining that for adults, it's an endless trap that never stops spinning. With the easy options debunked, the father figure makes the call. They're riding the roller coaster. He knows this is no place for fools. Everyone here is playing their own game, trying to survive. Our boy Yuanzi stays silent, observing the group's reactions, and trying to sniff out the traitor. The entire team is on edge, each member secretly analyzing the others, wondering who will betray them first. With a slight smirk, Yuanzi calmly states he has no objections, ready to face whatever comes next. A system message confirms their choice, sealing everyone's items in lockers until the ride is over. As they walk, Yuanzi realizes with a jolt that his trump card, the little blue pill, somehow bypassed the system's seal. The others aren't so lucky. The fire demon and the great sage start to panic, discovering their inventories and skills are completely locked. To make matters worse, Yuanzi realizes even his hidden yin power has been completely sealed away. Hebo explains the grim situation. Active skills are gone, but thankfully their passive abilities and raw physical stats are untouched. With no turning back, our boy steels himself and leads the way onto the death trap of a roller coaster. The entire squad takes their seats, the air thick with suspicion as Yuanzi sits beside a nervous Xie Lingxi. The father figure gives one last, ominous warning, telling everyone to shut their eyes and not open them for any reason. The ride lurches forward, beginning its slow, terrifying climb into the darkness. Following the instructions, everyone squeezes their eyes shut, bracing for whatever horrors await them. Suddenly, the ride is over, but a system notification drops a bombshell. Yuanzi has 30 seconds to expose the traitor in their midst. Elsewhere, in some high-class establishment, a woman in a bunny outfit dutifully brings a phone to her master. It's none other than Centurion Fu, who coolly takes the call, learning that his target, Yuanzi, has just entered the amusement park. Centurion Fu calmly listens on the phone, his expression unreadable. He ends the call, simply telling his subordinate to send a message in the morning. Turning to his associate, Fu confirms that his agent, the Night Wanderer, has entered the park, to which the man offers his fake condolences. The blonde man scoffs at the idea of survival, explaining that since our boy cleared an S-rank dungeon, the system will now throw an even deadlier one at him. With a smug grin, he declares this a death-type dungeon, a one-way trip with absolutely no escape. Back on the ride, the aftermath is a scene of pure carnage. 2 riders have been torn to shreds while everyone's eyes were closed. The great sage grabs the fire demon in a panic, demanding to know if anyone figured out the rules, as the closed-eye trick was clearly a lie. The blood-soaked fire demon snaps back, questioning how they could have possibly found any rules when they were ordered not to look. Amidst the chaos, Shishi remains composed, silently observing the panicked survivors and the ticking clock. Yuanzi realizes they're trapped. Their only option is trial and error, but in a dungeon this brutal, every mistake will cost another life. The great sage, though splattered with blood, just scoffs, reminding them that S-rank dungeons aren't supposed to be easy. Xie Lingxi apologizes profusely, blaming herself for trusting the guide and missing their chance to find the rules. Trying to keep the peace, the great sage tells her that blame is useless now. They just need to figure this out together. Shishi cuts in with cold logic, theorizing that either the rules changed or they missed something crucial by closing their eyes. But our boy Yuanzi shuts that down, explaining that as a night wanderer, he'd sense any spirits. And this place is clean. He drops a bombshell theory. What if it's not the rules, but a wicked person hiding among them, a killer in their midst? The fire demon immediately latches onto this, grabbing Hebo and demanding to know why he didn't warn them sooner. Hebo snaps, screaming that he was too terrified to even breathe, let alone speak, after a severed head landed in his lap. Yuanzi's eyes narrow as he asks a critical question. Exactly when did he feel the head fall into his arms? He then turns to Shishi, who was sitting right next to the victim, but she claims her fear of heights made her oblivious. Yuanzi runs the numbers, realizing the killer is most likely she, the fire demon, or the ashamed father, based on their seating. He flashes back to the ride, remembering the exact moment he felt a heartbeat from the back row just vanish. Lingzi notices our boy is acting strange, and asks him if he's okay. He plays it off with a nosebleed, joking that pretty girls always do this to him, but internally his brain is screaming from the overload. Hez stumped. If the killer is this good, they're all dead in 3 rounds, and he can't figure out why Hebo was the one to get the head. His suspicion hones in on the ashamed father, wondering just how much the guy remembers from the old park guide he mentioned. The chilling realization hits him. If he were the killer, he'd take out the smartest person first, which means Hez next on the chopping block. With only a minute left, Shishi cuts through the tension and calls for a vote. Do they face the next round with their eyes open or closed? The fire demon and the ashamed father are terrified, immediately voting to keep their eyes open, and Shishi quickly agrees. Seeing she's outvoted, Lingxi reluctantly agrees, feeling like she has no other choice but to go along with the terrified majority. Just as they're about to make a fatal mistake, our boy realizes he can't let them open their eyes, but he also can't reveal his system's secrets. He cuts in, asking if they've even considered the consequences if the rules have changed, reminding them they can afford 2 more deaths. He lays out a new plan. One person stays behind to watch while the rest ride with their eyes closed, giving them an observer without risking a team wipe. The fire demon questions the risk of splitting up, but Yuanzi shuts him down by volunteering to be the one who stays, thinking anyone who objects now is the killer. The rest of the group quickly agrees, with Shishi warning him to be careful since the killer is clearly a cunning one. As the coaster takes off for the second round, Yuanzi knows he just dodged a bullet. For him, riding was certain death, and staying was his only chance. The coaster returns safely, and Yuanzi explains that since no one died, the closed-eye rule is confirmed to be legit, and he'll ride the last 2 rounds. Taking his seat, he reflects on how they nearly got wiped out, realizing just how brutal this S-rank dungeon truly is. The rest of the group watches from the platform as our boy prepares to ride the coaster alone to make up for the rounds he missed. He steps onto the platform, ready to face the final, deadly rounds of the game by himself. Just as they think they're safe, the remaining survivors gather, but the game has one more twisted surprise for them. A system message pops up, giving our boy Yuanzi, as captain, 30 seconds to choose one wicked person to be obliterated. Everyone starts defending themselves. Lingxi says her power failed, the fire demon claims his wasn't active, and Shishi confirms no one acted suspiciously. With the clock ticking down to 0, Yuanzi is paralyzed, unable to condemn one of his teammates without any proof. He forfeits the choice, and the fire demon absolutely loses it, screaming at Lingxi that her incompetence is going to get them all killed. He grabs his head in pure panic, blaming her for listening to the old guide, and demanding to know where he is now. The hothead gets right in her face, refusing to believe she only memorized part of the critical information. But just as he's about to go too far, the ashamed father steps in, telling him to back off and reminding him they all voted for this ride. The fire demon isn't having it and turns his rage on the father, telling him to stop playing the hero. That's when the dad's friendly demeanor vanishes, replaced by a cold glare as he tells the loudmouth to shut up or he'll shut him up permanently. Just as fists are about to fly, our boy Yuanzi steps in, casually telling everyone to chill out and offering to buy them all chicken after they clear this nightmare. With the beef squashed for now, the tense group turns and heads toward the next attraction, a massive Ferris wheel looming in the distance. They follow the park's eerie signs, which point them past the restrooms and towards a place promising good luck just 20 meters ahead. But another, far more sinister sign reveals their true destination, a place ominously labeled the Death. Yuanzi confirms his plan internally. He's going to test everyone one by one, but he knows he can't expose his real identity or he'll be the first target. He starts his interrogation with Lingxi, smoothly asking the high schooler where she's from to get a baseline. He even offers to give her some private tutoring once they get out, laying the charm on thick to see how she reacts. Next, he turns to the mysterious Shishi, asking what she does for a living, and she coolly replies that she's a nurse. Yuanzi compliments her noble profession, but she just smirks, admitting she prefers a man who's wild and takes control. Finally, he tries to probe the ashamed father about his daughter, but the man instantly shuts him down, telling him it's none of his business. While our boy sizes up the team, Fire Demon mutters that everyone seems a bit off, but finds Yuanzi the most reliable. Yuanzi pulls the Great Sage aside, giving him a grim order. If he falls, the Great Sage must eliminate the ashamed father, who he suspects has a wicked profession. Their path leads them down into the belly of the beast, following a sign for an underground parking garage. The group steps into the cavernous, eerily silent lot, the air thick with dread. A suffocating stillness hangs over the rows of cars, a perfect hunting ground for whatever horrors await. Xie Lingxi, the surprisingly knowledgeable high schooler, explains that the old version of this stage required them to pass through this very parking lot. She lays out the rules. A carman will spawn every 3 minutes to hunt them, and they must find its controller hidden in a car to survive. Yuanzi's blood runs cold as he realizes that in this S-rank version, elimination means death, giving them only 18 minutes before everyone is wiped out. The ashamed father starts sweating bullets, pleading that they need to keep everyone alive for the final stage to have any chance of survival. Our boy asks the most critical question whether their skills will be sealed, but Xie Lingxi can only reply that the guide never said, leaving them to face the unknown. With the grim rules laid out, our boy takes a deep breath, steeling himself for the hell that's about to break loose. He takes the first step forward, leading the group into the concrete labyrinth, with no hesitation. From the shadows, it's clear they're just lambs walking into a slaughterhouse, completely exposed. Yuanzi and Xie Lingxi lead the way through the rows of cars, the silence itself feeling like a threat. Shi voices everyone's concern about the sheer number of cars, while the fire demon suggests splitting up to save time. Suddenly, a system notification pops up, giving them 2 keywords, controller and car key, as a 3-minute countdown begins. Yuanzi immediately realizes this isn't a gift. Rank stages don't give hints unless they're part of a bigger trap. He gives the order to search quickly, but to stay within shouting distance, and the team scatters like rats. They frantically start checking every vehicle, knowing that in less than 3 minutes, their first hunter will be born. While the others search frantically, Xie Lingxi uses her phone's flashlight to check under every single car. Our boy Yuanzi knows that if they don't find this controller in 3 minutes, they're all dead meat. Suddenly, her eyes widen as she spots something glinting in the dark. Wasting no time, she dives to the ground and triumphantly announces she's found a set of car keys under an SUV. With the clock ticking down, she snatches the key fob, a wave of relief washing over her. Just then, the Great Sage also yells that he's found a key, but Xie Ling's heart sinks when hers doesn't seem to work on any nearby cars. The Great Sage, however, presses the button on his key fob, hoping for a miracle. A nearby sedan's lights flash in response. He's found the one, the so-called controller. Without a second thought, the whole team piles into the car, thinking they've just beaten the system. Frantically searching the car, Hebo suddenly yells out that he's found a card wedged in the seat. It's a life concentrate potion, a one-time use consumable that can heal any external injury, a seriously clutch find. Our boy Yuanzi realizes this stage is far deadlier than he anticipated, and they'll need every advantage they can get to survive. But just as they start to strategize, the countdown hits 0, and the Great Sage's face drains of color as he announces their time is up. A terrifying revving sound rips through the garage as a monstrous chainsaw blade spins to life. The blade is attached to a colossal robot that looks like a knockoff transformer, and it declares that everyone is about to die. Its leg thrusters flare with blue energy, signaling a high-speed charge that spells doom for anyone in its path. Seeing the mechanical menace hurtling towards them, Yuanzi screams at the top of his lungs for everyone to scatter. The entire team breaks into a desperate sprint, running for their lives as the killer robot gives chase with murderous intent. But in the chaos, poor Xie Lingxi isn't fast enough and finds herself cornered. The mechanical menace snatches her up in an instant, leaving the fire demon to watch helplessly from a distance. With brutal force, the robot smashes her against a car, the impact echoing through the garage. Its thrusters power down as it stands over her, savoring the moment before the kill. The killer robot raises its chainsaw arm, the motor screaming as it prepares to execute her. She can only squeeze her eyes shut, tears of pure terror streaming down her face as she accepts her fate. The massive blade comes hurtling down, ready to slice her clean in two. But then, it screeches to a halt, the cold steel stopping just a hair's breadth from her cheek. Dumbfounded, she stares at her own reflection in the blade, completely baffled as to why she was just spared.